Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Fight Night Rising. Back once again with Boopasaurus, my co-caster. Pleasure always to cast with you every single week. How are you doing tonight?
Always it goes both ways, Mr. Khroen. Doing all right, having a little bit of a stomach thing going on, and had to go get tested for COVID a little earlier. Not that bad, by the way, everyone. If you're anxious about it, but now I'm happy to be here for TFT and get my mind off all that bad juju that I had all day today.
Of course, get to get to be here, get to relax, but get to be hyped about some really solid
Exactly.
TFT games, competitive. Every single week, it feels like I mean, that makes sense, right? Over the course of time, players will get better and better and better, and so naturally, the players that we see here are also following that trend as well. And some of them, like we have noted in previous weeks, are getting to be the best of the best that are competing, at least in North America. We'll see once it reaches the world global stage again how these players will fare there, but some of them could make their way there.
Yeah, we've gotten to see a couple people go through Fight Night Rising and then into the qualifiers. I think like Duo Q Abusers one that's a pretty well-known
Yeah.
name that have made it into the qualifiers and have done well on those qualifiers. So again, we say it's a stepping stone, but it's more than that here. It's the beginning, right? It's
Yeah.
not just the first stone, it's the first 5, right? Until we kind of get through. And these players here are, either coming in from other games and trying to make a name for themselves in TFT, or, they're coming back from previous fight nights like MrMeeSeeks, or trying to make a name for themselves on, maybe some unknown names that we have here growing.
Yeah, definitely. The names we do have here are lostboymaa, DimDanSum, MrMeeSeeksTFT, AAC Concentrado, Luna Love, Yiggles, Nolan, and of course the Jirachy.
And so the most familiar name here, definitely the most Twitter followers out of everyone here on this list, is Luna Love.
Yeah.
Very one of the best Hearthstone players in the world.
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
Probably, and not just over the last year, not just over the last 2 years, just in general, throughout the lifetime of that game. So definitely going to be looking at Luna Love to see. All right, we saw Wolfie come in here from Pokemon,
Oh yeah.
right? A little bit different, and now Luna's coming in from Hearthstone, which is, I think, an easier transition right into another
Yep.
title. And so I'm very intrigued. There is, I think, a possibility that Luna could absolutely surprise everyone and get a bunch of lobbies under her belt, or
Yep.
really struggle throughout the night because it's just like a new situation, right?
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
opponents, new everything. So I'm really intrigued to see how that kind of skill transition happens.
Definitely. Of course, all these competitors are going to be competing for their portion of the rising prize pool here. $200 up for grabs. $100 of that will be going to first place, $50 for second, and third and fourth, $25 each. But only the top 3 will be invited back for next week. But I did want to expand on a point that you were just talking about there, Boop. The players who have professional experience in other games and other titles coming in here to TFT, they're gonna have, I think, just an advantage. Maybe not necessarily right now, like as we saw, Wolfie's first performance here on Fight Night was a little bit shaky, but definitely improved immensely over the course of that few weeks or a couple months even, to being pretty dominant, like regularly, consistently top 4ing lobbies, getting top 3, getting invited back. Not, I think, narrowly not winning a Fight Night, but the potential was definitely there. And I think for Luna stepping in, that she could, follow along a similar trend, maybe even better.
Yeah, and someone else that I want to mention to two people actually is MrMeeSeeks, who has very inconsistent fight nights, just in general, right? One fight night, easy 3rd place. Another fight night, easy 7th place, right? And just incredibly inconsistent. And that's something that we want to see more consistency from MrMeeSeeks. And it seems like we're tracking that direction. And of course, the other one, a player that I've had my eye on for a little while, is the Jirachy, someone who we have had the pleasure of casting kind of a lot in our casting duo's lifetime, and has been it's actually the difference of MrMeeSeeks. Very, very consistent, but not winning lobbies, right? Very consistently 3rd, 4th place, which is going to get you back on fight night. But just like, how Gunmei was struggling with winning a fight night, and Sphinx is kind of the same way, Jirachy kind of falling under the same umbrella as those players right now.
Definitely. I think it's interesting you talk about consistency as well, and some of the players that do struggle with having consistent placements in Fight Night, not going for that, Gunmei or Numano, streak in terms of being invited back, top 3ing. Some players will fall victim to that 3-week curse, as you so have dubbed it. But I think just relating that to this TFT patch, this meta, it seems as though consistency is just not going to be there for a lot of players. At least that's how a lot of players view it. It's that, it's of course the reroll meta right now. Of course, it's going to be addressed in future patches, but players are like, well, if you have direction in the early game, you hit one of those rerollers, like, sure, you're chilling. If not, the game is infinitely harder. The game, you have a lot less direction, so there's a lot less forgiveness room, which in turn, I think, creates a lot less consistency. Now, I think also TFT players, sometimes they a little bit overreact and take that a little bit, too close to home. So I think, as I mentioned before, that there is, some wiggle room there, and a lot of it is just a mental game. If you think that it's doomed from the start, it's probably going to be doomed for you, but hopefully it won't be for these players here.
I totally agree. And the one thing that you all have to recognize as you're jumping into TFT is that one cost units are arguably gonna be the strongest they'll ever be in TFT right now, right?
Yeah, one of the times for sure.
Yeah, I think there was during Candyland is probably the other time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
were incredibly powerful. That was Poppy, TF, and Zoe at the time. But here it's more so consolidated onto specific one cost units, which are, I think, mostly the Nidalee is what you're seeing in your games on ladder, and Nasus. So Nidalee and Nasus are the one cost units I think on ladder you're seeing the most of. But
yeah,
on Monday, when we were doing qualifiers, we actually saw a substantial amount of non-reroll comps as well that went into traditional Bill Gates setups a little bit later. And that happened when you didn't really get your rerolls and you didn't land your Kale. So you have to kind of figure it out, right? And we actually had some really cool innovative strategies, and one of them was actually a Vanguard Mystic comp I'm really curious about with a Carry Aatrox that won a lobby on Monday. So it's not impossible to see that happen, but the reroll comp, I would say, has dug in even further than it had been last week, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much cemented itself as, the thing to look for if you have the opportunity to in meta, but not to say that you can't win with any other compositions, like you just mentioned, that Vanguard Mystic with Aatrox carry. It's like, no one would really think of it as like, okay, this is the comp that I'm going to go for to win a lobby. It's just like the pieces kind of fall onto your lap, and you're like, okay, I have this, do I want to stick with it? And sure, you can make something like that work. That's how TFT has kind of always functioned, just inherently. You don't need to stick to just one specific game plan. There's a whole variety of things that can happen over the course of a game that can influence your decisions, and you're gonna, not play the exact same game twice. Your shops are gonna be different, etc. And how you adapt to that is going to contribute to your success or non-success.
Yeah, and items are a lot less flexible than they used to be.
Very true.
We used to have Brian said this on Monday, item agnostic carries, right? Carries that, kind of like Yasuo in set 4, where you could build a variety of different items on them and find pretty similar success, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's the case right now. I think you can make the argument that someone like Kale could carry a lot of things, but in reality, should only be carrying best in slot, right? That's how you're going to get the most out of your units, right? And so in terms of max power level, I think best in slot for almost every carry you have is just such a substantial power level increase, right? Versus, consolation items that you're definitely going to get, even on these opening carousels. That direction is being determined a little earlier, not just from these reroll comps, but also from the fact that, okay, I have a Rage Blade right now. I'm going to go ahead and put it on Fiora and then put it on KO a little bit later, right?
Yep.
That's the direction that a lot of players are kind of using right now.
Definitely. And it's like you can get away with 2 out of 3 best in slot items, and one can get away with being, that not, I don't want to say suboptimal, but just, the second best in slot, I suppose, item. Say like a Hand of Justice or something of the sort there. Like you want the Rage Blade, you want the RFC defensive item as well, but you can get away with sacrificing one of them probably. But even still, as you mentioned, it's not going to be as strong. But getting to that stage 2 carousel right now, watching the perspective of DimDanSum, and they're on a bit of a loss streak. Still have 3 cultists in, which makes me think, okay, you maybe want to go for some wins here, but not going to be the case. the Vladimir is tier 2 already as well, but not even going to be making 10 gold at this point. It is a bit worrying considering that you would generally want to be in that position where you're making gold if you're 80 HP on a 3 loss streak.
Yeah, and if you guys are wondering why you see the same dolphin in like every TFT player's background, that is the Aegon dolphin.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it there.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people have it. So at this point, like, I'm sure someone's like, "Where is this dolphin from?" That is where it's from, and it's adorable. I like it. But yeah, DimDanSum is having a little bit of an issue here because, like you said, Cultist is one of those initial like, "I'm gonna win." Right, I'm gonna go ahead and win here. I get an extra unit, right? And that's just not happening here. So the strategy is very interesting because if DimDanSum does win, we actually reset our loss streak, and at 10 gold, that's a pretty massive, unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
Which is why I think we're keeping the Vlad in our front line. As we all know, Vlad's a support unit. Right, so that Vlad's not really going to be doing anything. But the hard part here is just like, we're depending on Galio to take at least one unit down, so we don't get wiped every time. But this was a wipe this time around as we hit to 74. Not worst case scenario. We've definitely seen lower health totals here, but with a lobby that's actually been trading wins as much as it has, the only person not trading wins is DimDanSum. So that actually might work out in his favor in terms of economy a little later on, but in terms of HP economy, not really right now.
Ooh, okay. Actually, opting to buy the Warlord Chosen Garen, which it's probably a little late to pick up a Chosen, in my opinion, at this point in the stage, unless you are, of course, going for that win. But putting in 3 Warlords, saying, never mind, I want to put 3 Cultists back in as well. You want to mitigate the losses at this point. Like, you killed 2 units in that last round. Maybe you can kill a bit more here. But going up against the Jirachy, who is level 6 on stage 2-6. That is definitely aggressive, to say the least.
When we're in this reroll world, right? Level 6 is a very awkward level, especially if you're trying to reroll 1-cost units, right? So we can actually use DimDanSum as an example here. Level 4, 55% for 1-cost units, right? So we'll get to see the difference once we do level up, most likely next round. But level 6 is not going to have that happen. So what that tells us is that Jirachy, knowing that they have a lead, right, they're going to go ahead and say, all right, it's time to sprint a little bit and sprint out far ahead. And with a lobby that's actually this top heavy right now, that could be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much so. I mean, DimDanSum's really low in HP, being 63 at this point. I think is definitely like below average for a 5 loss streak. Maybe barely below average, but it still is going to be nonetheless. I think that. I think that they will level up for sure. Being at level 4 here still is a little bit awkward because like your shops are not going to be quite as good. Say you're level 5, if you didn't pick up the Garen Chosen, you would be able to pick up a better one, maybe a 3 cost or something of the sort. But yeah, they do level in now. They're not going to be re-rolling, and they put in the 3 Warlord with the 3 Cultist.
And that was a 45% chance on rolling 1-cost units at 5. I think it's one of the better rolling levels if you are going to hyper roll. A lot of people say that if you don't have your golden 1-cost unit by 3-2, you're behind. And so I mean, and sometimes, you get those games where, I had a buddy of mine have a tier 3 Nasus by the first PvP round, right? Sometimes the game just gives you that option. And right now, the Jirachy, not really hyper rolling right now, but has that Nasus, which is so strong right now. On truly an item agnostic character as well. There are definitely some better items on him that can pretty much utilize everything. If you want to go the tank way, you can. If you want to go the AP way, you can. If you want to go even AD, right, you can, just to hold on to someone else. So if I get an Nasus too early, that's definitely the direction I usually go.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to hear Jirachy's reasoning as to leveling up to 6 before stage 3. Generally, if you're going to do it, you do it on 3-1 at the earliest, but wanting to protect that win streak earlier. And we know from last week, and previous weeks as well, that the Jirachy likes to go for that early win streak. It gives you a lot of control in the early game. You're a lot flexible in your transitions, etc., etc. And I mean, utilizing it here, still on 30 gold on 3-2, is pretty decent. If they had greeted out their gold as opposed to leveling, they could have had a bit more, maybe closer to like 40 gold or something. Holding on to the Olaf here, potentially it is going to sacrifice Econ unless you sell some of these bench units here. But it looks like they're going to be strong enough, of course, at the back of, the Nasus. I think it's really solid. You talked about it. It can carry a bunch of items. Sunfire Cape being a really good one, as well as having some great. It could be Kale items with the Hodge and the Ginsu's Rageblade as well. But a pretty solid start nonetheless. Open for a lot of different directions. I think maybe wanted to go to could probably go to level 8 before rolling down, finding that carry, whatever it might be. And an option for a Sejuani here as well.
Yeah, this is looking potentially like a Talon or a Kale comp, potentially a little bit later. Anytime you see that enlightened, you might even consider like a chosen Morgana if that comes up a little bit later as well. But something that is actually really interesting here on a more minute level is that Callista in the back line, which I've noticed at tier 1 has actually been very strong in a lot of lobbies recently, as there isn't as much CC as, like, say, the beginning of set 4, right? And so she's going to be able to get to those stats so much quicker and is going to at least get 1 or 2 units to an execute point. And look at her, go right now, is taking down that Shyvana. And if no one is focusing that Callista, no matter if she's tier 1 or not, she's gonna execute you, right? And help your team. And that's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 unit win against Noel. And Jirachy is going to continue on at 100 HP. And while this has not equaled a lobby win for the Jirachy yet, they have done this every single lobby so far we've seen them in. And then just winning that war of attrition has guaranteed a top 4 every single time so far. So it's very interesting that they're still trying to go after this. But I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, if it nets you top 4s, sure, that's great. I think they can pull off better results. I think, if remembering correctly, last week they did a similar style and got exactly 4th a couple times. But, excuse me, from such a dominant position, you usually should be able to net it sometimes into some lobby victories, or at the very least top 2s. But it obviously depends on what you do hit when you eventually decide to level up, roll down for whatever carry that you want, etc., etc. But looking at the board right now, like it's fantastic. There's a lot of good things going on. We talked about it before. The Nasus in the front line has Divine for a bit of extra tankiness or ability, as well as having the 2 Mystics and the Janna shields, the Yuumi heals on top of that. There's just so much. And yeah, of course, I'm not surprised to see this at all. Leveling up right now to level 7, you still stay on 30 gold, which I think is the minimum that you would want to be on 3-5 and still going to level 7. But putting in the Vladimir for the Siphoner as well is just going to increase this composition survivability, which it already has so much of at this point even.
And just for because I actually have been seeing a lot of it in some of my some games that I see on stream on some of the lower ranks, is some people are putting RFC on Nasus. I think the idea is that, like, okay, we're just gonna get to our ult, keep him safe, he's our carry, right? But you got to get him to ult quick, and if he's in the back line, he's not going to be able to get that crazy Siphoner buff every single time, getting him to his full health. You might be able to tag a couple more people with attack speed slows, but you're not going to be as effective with as with a Sunfire Cape, for example, right? So the idea is definitely there, but I like the fact that we're moving into the tank area, just like lostboymaa. This comp looks moderately familiar from the one that we saw last time. We got a couple of Siphoners. This Nasus Vladimir combo is a very it's a moderately common opening because they support each other so well. And so that's very common to see, and you have to get the Slayer bonus in there for the Olaf to work, and we've committed to some Olaf damage with the Deathblade there. So we're not committed to Olaf right now, as all of our Slayers are 1 cost, but that's definitely the direction this is looking at right now.
Oh yeah, definitely looks like, especially with the GA on the Nasus, part of the best in slot for Olaf, of course, just an item carrier right now. And there's just a lot of good units in terms of synergies in right now. It's going to be hard to deal with the Elderwood mage composition there from Luna, but Luna has dropped pretty low, is in 7th place right now, trying to get that composition online to just even stabilize. And I mean, I think if you're lostboymaa, you're not going to be too upset. You've preserved a loss streak throughout all of stage 3. You get to econ up a bit more, and you get to now swap your items over. Your GA goes onto the Olaf. It just comes down to how this roll down goes, because you need to really get something online in terms of some frontline supportive units, because this Nasus, this Vladimir, this Sivir, even the Zed, those units are going to go. They need to be replaced with something just a bit better, and they're only 1 stars at this point as well.
And Wolves game 1 item.
Yeah, that's. I mean, their items are like they have 9 components right now, so it's not the end of the world. Like they already have some good stuff going for them, but yeah, it doesn't really give you much much of a power spike going into stage 4, of course.
Mm-hmm. And that power spike is kind of what you want. So I guess now we're, if we lose again, we're just inting for 4-3 carousel from stage 1. But we are going to go ahead and put in some adepts in here. Khroen, I actually really like this. It's going to help that Olaf get going a little bit quicker with that adept buff that you're going to see, especially against MrMeeSeeks team specifically, who are almost all auto attack based.
Yeah, especially with the Kindred holding those auto attack items, and that's the perfect items that you want in the Olaf, with the Runans included there. Gonna be missing for now, and yeah, this Kindred's still going to be a bit too good, even with the addition of the Adept buff. lostboymaa just still probably needs to roll a bit more, maybe find a way to throw the Shen in with another Mystic to give 3 Adept and some Mystics in. This composition really wants to get to level 8, so it's a bit awkward. You're gonna have to sacrifice something if you want to fit everything in at level 7, but I don't think you really need the Siphoners as well, like that Vladimir. It is your only 2-2 unit on the board, actually, but honestly, it can go. And rolling down, not hitting anything, not even a pair of Olafs. This is looking a little doomed for lostboymaa. I'd actually be really surprised if this is anything better than like a 7th at best from this point.
The HP is a little too low to kind of assume that we're going to be able to come right back in, right? We don't have a chosen, and even if we do get like a 4-cost chosen roll on the next one, we are going to have to sell some units to get it, and that is not fun. So we have to make some important choices now, and we're still rolling, donkey rolling at this point, right? To 0, and usually when you see that, it's desperation, right? It is not because you want to.
I'm not a fan of it as well. There's opportunity to make econ going into this round. It might not result to much, but at least it will result to 1 more gold. Those rolls didn't need to happen at that point right there. Dropping to 23 HP. Still not even a pair of Olafs. I mean, you can put in a couple units for Dragon Soul, but that's not really going to do it. You talked about there's a bit low on HP, a bit low on everything here. A bit low on units upgraded, a bit low on HP, a bit low on gold. It's just, it's pretty sad to watch, honestly.
Yeah, this is
okay. A pair. We got something going.
We've all been here. That's the thing, right? As a super, that is like okay. Here's a pretty good chosen just in general. Executioner chosens are pretty strong, let alone that the Kindred. But we haven't rolled a single 4-cost chosen yet. You got a 5% chance to roll that 4-cost chosen at level 7. But right now, just pairs, and we're getting spanked in our rounds too. It's not close. We need the ASOL to ult, and we're only going to get the Mage 1 bonus with it right now. So Mage 1 meaning it's the only mage, and so we got to get it out there. And with these items are okay. We get first choice, and we're going to go ahead and go with the cloak to go along with that vest to make a gargoyle stoneblade.
Yeah, I don't think that's really. I mean, I guess there's a world where it's like, okay, I'm 8 HP, I'm 1 life left. I have to throw a Swain in there. It gives me Dragon Soul over the Aurelion Soul. I can get a Gargoyle on it. I can put the Locket and the blue buff on it as well. Just something so I can live at least until Raptors, right? Because it's looking pretty, grim to even live until that point. Unfortunate that there was no Olaf on the carousel. I think if there was one, that would have been a snap pick. Literally, no matter what the item was, you get Lucky Lantern here as well. Finally, it is the stage 4 one, so it's the late one. And what does it give? It gives a bow, okay, and a cloak, actually. So Runan's right there. Best in slot Olaf is online. Still not tier 2, however.
Okay, so we definitely got a little stronger, right? But not substantially. We
Yeah.
are pinching pennies right now when it comes to our team comp, and because the ASOL gets sold, right? That means that that's how desperate we are right now. Is we're gonna go ahead and make that GA onto the Swain, and that's gonna have to be our carry. But we're frontlining that Swain, and the Talon is very, very close. At least we get an ult off with that Swain, and we got some black pools as well. But this is not looking good, especially since there is a Swain on the other side of the board as well. As lostboymaa not even going to make it to chickens today. That is unfortunate. As we move over to Luna, who's only lost once since we actually saw her go up against lostboymaa a little bit earlier.
Yeah, running a 5 mage composition with the Annie, looking to reroll that Annie to tier 3 eventually. Is still 4 Annies off of that point, but it isn't even on a pair of Aurelion Souls here. We did see that Luna did drop pretty low HP. It was like 47 a bit earlier. I think that was on, excuse me, the end of stage 3. Yeah, around that number, and they were like one of the lowest in the lobby. Now the lobby HP is kind of evened up. We have Nolan at 49, and then Concentrado down in 7th with 37. So just 12 HP gap between 2nd and 7th here. This composition looks a bit too beefy. It is a lot of 1-stars, though, on the other side of the board here, but we'll have to see if the Aurelion Soul is strong to deal with it. And against that Shyvana, it is not looking good.
An ASOL 2 would be very helpful when it comes to this comp, because the items on the ASOL are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Hextech Gunblade on ASOL is an amazing item for that character. If you can slap it on, say like you only have the 2 items, that's so good. The GA is very good too. Rageblade's going to help them get to that ultimate just even faster. But we're getting to the point now where, okay, we've been surviving with 1-cost units, right? We've been surviving with a tier 1 brand. Right now, we got to do more than survive. We need to win, and that's where Luna is right now. She's got to, turn the corner and start pushing, as opposed to, letting things kind of happen. So now that we're over 50 gold after this, and we're so close to level 8, and it's almost guaranteed to get a 4-cost chosen if you want. But I'm interested to see if this Annie stays and where we're going to go from here, especially since our Ornn is very close to making an item. If we do get an Ornn too, the item should pop out.
Yeah. Let's see here. Going with a Vigar as well. Get the level of the brand is decent. I mean, this composition, it wants to be like, it can be 5 mage, 6 Elderwood. Skipping Recons, though, which makes you think that's not the direction that Luna is looking for. There's finally a pair of Aurelion Souls, but a pair is not going to be good enough here. Chalice and Lulu is great. These other items can make like Giant Slayer and QSS, I probably think are going to be the items of choice. Oh, okay, it's going to be RFC. I can item remover that, or not, depending. We'll see where that actually ends up. But yeah, Luna did not have the best roll down there, to be honest. There was no Annies picked up as well. So the dream of a, unkillable frontline with an Annie 3 is a little bit hurt there.
Yeah, and you're seeing Jirachy and how good it is sometimes just to develop a lead. Right.
Yeah.
And Jirachy has lost probably 4 rounds in a row to get to 55 HP at this point, and it is gonna be okay, most likely. You know what I mean? Even from 2nd place, which is Contrado, we probably have 1 or 2 rounds to lose. So we are feeling A-okay, as we are going to go ahead and use the magnetic remover on the Ornn. Just kind of wanted to see how that is. I love giving items to Ornn, not because it's good, just emotionally he gives to us, so I feel like we should give back. And let him just feel that for a second. He's not just working for us, he's part of the team. And so we got to see that happen a little bit. But this duelist comp on the other side by Yiggles has been sneaking throughout the lobby so far. But man, the other thing I really want to talk about too, now that we've seen it, is Yiggles and that Fiora. Fiora is nutty good right now. 8 duelists too.
Yeah, this is great from Yiggles. She has some really impressive stuff going on here. The only thing is that the Yone is not on the board. It is on the bench right now. How we're going to find a way to put it in. I mean, does have a duelist spat, can take out maybe like the Janna, but you don't really want to do that because it gives a lane to the Fiora, making her inherently a lot tankier, making her whole team tankier because she buys so much time, and it gives Mystic as well, but we do take out the Mystic in the form of the Zilean there. But man, the Yasuo with 3 items, like this isn't typically like best in slot Yasuo, but it's still one of those units that can function with like slightly suboptimal items. And I think this is a great scenario of that right now. We even have 2 duelist spats, a Rage Blade and the Kale. It's not Kale 2, but there's a pair of them. Like this composition, yeah, it's just shredding everything in its way right now, giving Jirachy yet another loss. And all of a sudden, Jirachy goes from being 100 HP, basically, you know, the whole first half of the game, to now in the bottom 4, at least in terms of HP. Could end barely in the top 4 here, but losing a bunch of rounds here, it's not looking too good.
Yeah, I don't believe we have seen a fully 8 duelist team comp here. And that the fact that the Janna is duelist is actually really frustrating because that means that her shield is going to be tagging a lot of people, and that's attack damage, right? It's not just defense, you're giving attack damage as well. So it's actually, it's a lot of extra stats for your entire team. And Yiggles is playing this exactly like she should. In my opinion. And yeah, that Yasuo too with the Giant Slayer is really interesting. So I was told by a couple people that if you can't build IE, build the Giant Slayer, you can put the Yasuo in front and try to get through the tanks. If you build the IE, you tend to put him closer to the back because he's going to 1v1 assassins a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's just good basic advice when it comes to Giant Slayer versus IE anyway, as we get a Lee Sin 2 at 5-5 here. It's not early, but it is definitely a good sign.
Oh yeah, for sure. Lee Sin 2, you know, Frozen Heart's not gonna be the best item on him, but it'll still function. There's no Lee Sin 2 actually in the lobby. Everyone kind of getting online at this point during the end of stage 5 here, but I think Yiggles is going to be advantage versus most players. Maybe not DimDanSum here. There is a really, really good also duelist kill on the other side there, and it's just tearing away at this Yasuo.
Yeah, also a Lee Sin too. This one with full items. It's like it's like the alternate universe, the parallel universe evil version of the team, right? Like it's the Bizarro to the Superman situation is kind of what they're running. But yeah, I could see DimDanSum and Yiggles being the final 2 people in this lobby. I don't think that is out of the question. Luna still in this as well. Now that we've got the Kale 2, that last matchup probably would have been a little bit better. We do have just a naked sword on the Kalista, which could be a GA, which could be something else a little bit later if we get there, but I don't know if we're going to get to another carousel with some incomplete items at 12 HP. But yeah, this is going to be over really, really soon, especially since first place is 28 HP.
Yeah, I'm curious about if Jirachy will actually win this next round or not, because Jirachy's taken a bunch of losses. Now it's down to 1 hit remaining with 10 HP. Going to see Yiggles versus Nolan over there also, but the great Zephyr is hitting the Lee Sin and the Kale.
God, Zephyr is the coolest thing about pro play, in my opinion. I know that might sound a little like lackadaisical, but the ways that pros use Zephyr are so cool, and how much they value items like that. They're just like, I know in like Gold and Plat, people just don't build the item, right? And in these higher levels, you see Chalices, you see Zeeks, and you see those Zephyrs, and people will sell a tier 2 unit, buy the tier 1 version of that unit just to get that Zephyr off. And we have seen personally Zephyrs win a lobby before just based off of where they get placed, and that's just one of the most dynamic aspects of TFT and always has been, and one of my favorite things to watch just in general, because it's straight up mind games with that item, and that's always really fun to watch at a high tier level.
Mind games and maybe a bit of a mechanics check if you can, you know, follow the unit that someone's moving all around the board. But a little bit of both for sure. Moving on over to the Jirachy here, and they are in a rough spot. 7 loss streak at the finds a divine chosen Kale. Execution would have been slightly better, but at least we find a chosen finally. And yeah, this is really good. We get to roll down just to try to find some other upgrades. Not going to be getting any. There is still a magnetic remover. Doesn't really need to be used. I believe that was a Frozen Heart. Yeah, to put on something here. But some last second positioning changes. Ooh, recognizing that there is a Talon 3 in the lobby and actually runs into it. And yeah, I see the expression on their face right there. That's going to be a little bit of an oof. See, the Frozen Heart actually makes difference here. It very well might.
I actually think the Frozen Heart might make that difference. Azir also, I've always said, is one of like the more underrated ults in the game because you have to walk back to it. Oh no, the targeting though. This is going to be on the Talon side, maybe.
Yeah.
And so if that was matchup dependent, that is unfortunate. But 4 people got eliminated. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
4 people got eliminated on that round, and so a 5th place for Jirachy is actually not that bad. And that's why like HP as an economy is so important. You might end up in a situation exactly like this lobby where 4 people are at single digits and all 4 of them lost, right? And Luna with 2 HP versus Jirachy with 7, right? Like that mattered in the end game. So really, look at your HP as economy, because when you get to this point, the value of that is like Dogecoin, right? It's to the moon.
The moon. And this Talon seems to be following us here, and it follows DimDanSum here. Talon jumping around, and it's just going to be so good when it finally makes its way to the Kale. Yeah, just one-shotting it as well. Lee Sin, can he get the kickoff? Oh, it jumped the kick? The kick doesn't actually go again because in the GA state, so Talon actually wins the matchup.
Learn something new every day, friend. Man. It's funny because that actually makes sense to me. Like what happened there is just unfortunate. You know what I mean? It's like the other day I was playing a game when I got wrecked because I played bad. Right? Like, and that was just one of those things. It's like it makes sense. I get it. I deserve it. Still feels bad.
Yeah. That happens. For sure. But gotta recognize, it's on you. You could have played better, Always some stuff to improve upon.
Exactly. As I mean, I guess it was a cookout today as spatulas are all over the place when it comes to this lobby. A lot of divine players right now and no hyper roll comps, I think, in the top 3 right now. So oh no, we have the hyper roll duelist comps. 2 of the 3 actually. So DimDanSum is representing the other side of that and is actually going to take down MrMeeSeeks. So we have our top 2, 21-14. Contrado has definitely won the most rounds over the course of this lobby, but DimDanSum's team right now is very, very strong. The Warlord spat not going to do anything if you guys are curious. Maybe came from the NPC round.
Yeah.
But at least the belt is going to give some stats.
Okay, didn't pick up the Yone that was on in the last shop, so I wasn't really valuing putting the Yone in, I suppose, unless they level up. And at that point, you're going to need every single bit of gold you can get. If you win this round, we can then level up, put 3 Adept in, that might make the difference versus Concentrado's composition over there. Going to be moving back into the right corner here. It's really just on the back of this Kale and Lee Sin. What can Lee Sin kick off of the board? Can it actually kick the Talon, or will Talon just reign supreme here?
The Talon could get CC'd, right? A good Irelia ult, a good Jax ult, right? It could happen. And so Talon 3 is not a guaranteed win. Like a Kale 3 is a much more guaranteed win than a Talon 3, in my opinion. And you're seeing exactly why right now. The targeting was really great with that Talon, but if that Talon didn't target Kale, this might have gone a different direction, as DimDanSum is going to lose out to Contrado on this go round, and Contrado is going to make it to a win streak. And just so everyone at home knows, if you hover over the screen on Twitch, you can find all of their streams and go to their stream specifically and follow them there and support them there as well. But as we finish up this lobby, I don't think DimDanSum is necessarily completely out of it. This is just all going to be exactly where the Talon lands and what the targeting of DimDanSum's team is going to be.
I would really rather, I think, play the Yone here than the Sejuani. It's just a Sejuani 1. The chance of it getting ultimate off actually isn't going to be that high. Maybe there's a world because it's not going to be focused by the high damage threats. Have to see here. And okay, Sedge does get an ultimate off, so this could actually be the difference.
Yeah, that Sedge ultimate is going to lock up almost everyone on that field, and that is going to happen. And all you needed was the 1 win, and DimDanSum going to come back with some nice positioning and win out on our first lobby, beating a Talon 3.
That was some good stuff there. I mean, that is exactly what you're just saying about Talon. It's not going to be that guaranteed win once you get to tier 3. A lot of rounds it can absolutely demolish, but then one round it gets stuck, it gets CC'd, and it actually just looked like such a different fight there. It was so dominant in the other direction towards the Kale. So great play there, I think, recognizing utilizing the HP as an exact resource. They got down to just but 1 life remaining, then leveled to 9, put the Sejuani in, and won from there. So great stuff.
Nice recognition that the CC is what was necessary, right? Notice that there was no QSS on that carry, and those of you watching at home should notice that too. Hey, there's a Talon 3, or there's a carry on the other side, but it does not have QSS. That's when that CC becomes very, very important as we look at our scores.
Yeah, DimDanSum there with that first place off the back of those that Kale really, and the Lee Sin, I suppose. But Concentrado with the Talon 3 netting a second, not too shabby. MrMeeSeeks in third, and Yiggles getting that fourth. Hope to see some better stuff from the bottom 4 of our lobby. Still 3 more games to go, but from the Jirachy in 5th, Nolan in 6th, Luna Love in 7th, and lostboymaa with that 8th.
You know what's actually crazy about this point spread is that everyone from Yiggles to Luna were actually within 10 HP of each other when they lost, and so that they all lost at the same time, and this is the result of that, right? So you might see Luna and see 2 points and be like, oh, that was a rough game. It was honestly like it could have. Luna was a couple units away from being third. You know what I mean? So it is it was a very close lobby. 2 things that I take away from this particular lobby that we saw. Number 1 is that the Jirachy continues the 4th and 5th place streak. We really want to see them push for the win, but this is working. And if you don't really care, right, and you just want to come back every week on fight night, then do what you need to do. And then the second thing is I actually really love the way Contrado played that. I don't know if we didn't really get to see the stream all that much, but when going up against other people and seeing what was happening on the side, slowly and quickly, actually, it felt slow, but all of a sudden had a Talon 3 and played pretty well, and just got outpositioned in that last round. Again, Contrado could have easily had that 10 points there too. So very, very close lobby.
Definitely super close lobby in scores here, and like you were saying, these just the numbers on the screen right now don't really tell the full story of what happened in the last game. It was super close between even like 2nd and 7th place for the majority of that mid game there. So some good stuff. It makes me excited to see what's going to happen in these other games. Like man, it's so crazy watching the Jirachy from like such a lead almost every single game, or like over half the games, and then it's still just like it falls off always a bit harder than I expect. Maybe it's a bit too much greed, or I'm not really sure. Actually, I'd be curious to watch them when it does get to that pivotal point where they are then pushing levels, rolling it down, and trying to make it actual endgame composition, as opposed to just playing strongest board, pushing fast levels, and things of the like there.
All right, so now we're looking at Noel97 or Noel 97. Just makes me feel old. The fact that someone is born in 1997 in general, and that everyone born in the year 2000 can now legally drink.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh?
I know, I know, right? Anyway, I'm gonna cry later about that. But Noel is that's actually a really great start for Yasuo. You're not like completely. If you can get a Yasuo with a bow on it, that's awesome for that first carousel, but not necessarily required. Everyone's going to get a 1-cost unit and an item, but that particular item that is pretty good, especially if you get 2 Yasuos clean in the next pack. So this is looking like a duelist game if I've seen one.
I was just gonna say, it's like, yeah, by itself in the first carousel, it's like probably not gonna be anything. You usually would just sell it off there, unless you're able to tier it up into a tier 2 Yasuo, like we just saw exactly there. And bow is a great item, as you said. It can actually build to a few solid items. One's off the top of my head, actually 4. You can build a Titan's Resolve, you can build a Rune Edge, you can build Giant Slayer, you can build Last Whisper. I think all of them function pretty well on Yasuo if you pair them with other good items that complement. In that regard, but this is a great start. It actually makes sense right now. It's not Noel, it's Noel or Noel on NA, not Nolan NA. So I'm just it clicked. It clicked for me there.
There it is. It's a learning process sometimes. We did have remember when that player trolled us a couple months ago?
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, as a Noel97 now has a very strong opening team. This is really good. So what this also means is that we don't necessarily need to level the on the next level. I think a 3-person team with a tier 2 Yasuo and a bow, potentially even a Titan's Resolve, could either make a good loss or even pull out a victory if we do face off and that's against another 3-unit team. So that's definitely what we're looking at right now. Sir Thomas is a little too close to Yasuo right now. Yeah, we need a little bit of social distancing to get our
Yeah.
exile proc, but we're going to go ahead and fix that.
That's when Yasuo's most comfortable, being sufficiently distanced from everybody else.
Same.
And yeah, definitely very topical here. But even if you go up against another 3-unit composition here, you're gonna be weaker if you're facing a Chosen, exactly like what's happening here. Yiggles over there has that Chosen Maokai and a Tahm Kench and a Zed in there as well. Just might as well throw in whatever will be the strongest unit in that scenario. And it's gonna be really hard for Yasuo to chop this tree down right now.
Yeah, if we had a giant slayer, it would be a lot better. And this is unfortunately also a fact of targeting, right? So if the Yasuo and the Zed faced off against each other, that probably still would have been a loss, but by 1 less unit. But again, only 2 units, and we actually pick up another Yasuo here. So if we find a chosen Yasuo, we're only going to be 3 Yasuos away after this. So I think it's worth at least trying, even though we actually haven't gotten any other duelist units to appear.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit awkward. I guess you can hold on to this Yasuo, sell everything else, or most everything else, to get to 10 gold. Can hold on to the dream for a couple rounds longer. By no means are you committed to this, though. I mean, they even haven't slammed any items like Titan's Resolve or Last Whisper, which makes me think they definitely just want to have, some fluidity, some openness in decisions here. Jirachy, once again, going for this early win streak, playing strongest board, slamming a Locket, has a Chosen Fiora, and we've talked about it a lot recently. The strength of an early Fiora Chosen can carry you to that level 7, level 8 even stage. And yeah, Noel definitely wants to go to 10 gold there. Unfortunately, Losso had to sell a Maokai, but at the end of the day, that's going to be okay.
All right, so now we're getting to the point where it's like, all right, do I just want to keep hunting Yasuos and just have him have no friends? Or am I going to try to go a different direction right now? Because at 2-3, we're getting a little late on getting up to that duelist comp, but we can still get there. You never know with these packs, and we already have 4 Yasuos, right? So if anything, duelist is such a popular comp right now that someone else is not going to have those Yasuos, most likely. So I'm totally cool with that. And the other unfortunate thing for Noel right now, even though we had such a great start on those Yasuos, is that everything else hasn't hit. So
Yeah.
we're having a little bit of a hard time, especially in a world where it seems like a Giant Slayer would have actually been mega valuable to this Yasuo. And we started with the bow. All we needed is a sword to cut down. It seems like a pretty tanky lobby at the moment.
Pretty tanky lobby indeed, running into so many strong compositions. As a keeper Chosen Elise there over there for Luna with some cultists in as well. So that's just too much beef. And the players who are on the bottom end of the lobby here, Noel and lostboymaa, are pretty below average. They're below 80 HP on even the stage 2 carousel. Noel gonna grab another bow. Probably at this point, I would imagine not go for this Yasuo reroll into duelist, but probably just be setting up for a Kale later on down the line, like a lot of players do. It doesn't have to be Kale though. It could still be Olaf. It could still be Shyvana. It could still be what's other RFC users I'm forgetting? There's others, but it could be one of the few.
It's like, it's like when you get Kale, it's like, okay, so I got promoted, and so I'm going to save some money real quick, and then I'm going to hold on until I can buy my mansion. Right. And then like Kale is kind of like the mansion part of some people's TFT or Bill, because that's, I think, honestly, the closest we get to Bill Gates is the fact that you probably spend around 100 gold looking for your 3 Kales, most likely. So you're spending the same amount of money, but you're only looking for Kales. As we do take out the Yasuo. So knowing that we actually chose a Dragon Soul Chosen means that these Yasuos are not going to be in our comp unless we level up here soon. At least we do have a Dragon Soul proc. It's going to be nice on the Tristana. We should be able to take a couple more units down because of this.
Hopefully you can take a couple units down. I mean, that's going to be some tanky divines there. So honestly, even with the upgrade of the Chosen Tristana, Yeah, it's not going to net into anything here. It looks like,
Ooh.
okay, yeah, barely not taking down the Wukong there. And this is so low to be 68 HP and still another round left. lostboymaa actually winning that round, so not going for the full loss streak. I actually be curious because, I mean, Noel, we're not going to see too much right now. I'm actually curious moving over to lostboymaa. Okay, MrMeeSeeks instead actually going to see.
This is good.
Yeah, it's definitely good. We already have the Deathblade and the Runouns here, and that's going to be setting up as well, like we mentioned last game, for a really good Olaf, but it also could go to some other units as well. Going to see where they
No one played
decide to go
Nidalee
here.
last lobby. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, yeah.
True. There was actually very little reroll comps in the last
Just
game
the duelist
comparatively.
reroll. Yeah, just we had 2 duelist players, and that's it. So that actually happened on Monday. Our first lobby, I believe, had all the reroll comps were 4th or below on Monday. And so we've seen a lot of times here on Fight Night. Like, we come in and it's like, it's the week of Warwick. And then we see 0 Warwicks. You know what I mean? Or it's Morgana week. And we see like 1 Morgana the whole time. And so it tends to happen here. We will see a spattering of reroll comps, but it doesn't seem like people are committing to them at the moment. We will see at like 3-2, but very, very interesting. We are going to commit, I think, at this point, since we're putting in some warlords. A warlord chosen here would be amazing for MrMeeSeeks, and a warlord comp can definitely win a lobby, especially if you get the golden versions of a couple of them. Really good early game carries in Vi and Nidalee, moving into some really defensive-oriented options later on, like with Azir, and it's a pretty solid just mono comp.
Yep. Definitely. A couple things to note, I think. Not only is this composition pretty solid in this mid game, but also they took out the Nidalee, MrMeeSeeks did, for that last round because they didn't want to win, recognize the person who might be weaker than them is going to be Noel, and they ran into that. They ended up getting the loss to make some bit more money here. Actually, they also have 2 Nikos right now, and you know how you mentioned earlier, sometimes you roll down 100 gold for a Kayle. You're not going to need to do anything like that this game if you just want to slam both Nikos on that 4 cost. But maybe MrMeeSeeks will opt to greed it out to finding a 5 cost, maybe a Samira. Getting Samira with those items is boy, that's going to be some scary stuff. And imagine if you go warlords with the Samira, get a warlord spat too, warlord spat, Deathblade, Runouns, like that's a lobby winner right there. It's so insanely well. Also, lostboymaa did win that last round as well, so they were able to go on a couple win streak before this round. But Luna Love on the other side here, the only player remaining with 100 HP.
Yeah, we're doing a Nidalee cultist comp. So this is what you usually would expect from a cultist comp in the early game, especially with an early Sivir. That ultimate is like it's a Zeke's in a character, right? But for your whole team, right? So I like putting Zeke's on Sivir just for the lulz, right? It's just like so much attack speed. People do have max attack speed in this game, so you can lock out. Like say you get Duelist and Rageblade on someone, you'll see a Kayle get to max attack speed, for example. But this is very good stuff for MrMeeSeeks and Luna. The problem with these particular comps is once we start hitting comps with our tier 2 4 cost units, these tier 2 1 cost units will definitely start to fall off. And that's when you start transitioning out of cultist, and that's where they kind of meet in the mid game, right? The Kayle hunters are going to be losing, right? Whereas, and MrMeeSeeks apparently, whereas the the cultist players should be winning. Luna is winning her way through this lobby. So, and then eventually they all come together. You get your golden warriors, and then you've also got your Kayles, and that's when you get your top 4 situations. But as of right now, hyper roll comps and early rolling comps should be stronger overall across the lobby if you are looking, especially against those comps looking for some late game units like Kayle.
Definitely. 6 cultists here for MrMeeSeeks. All of a sudden it went from a warlord composition, warlord keepers, to I'm just going to go straight up 6 cultists right now. And we get cultist vanguard even, finding the Aatrox as well. That's a really good pivot here. I think it's exactly what you need to stabilize, stop losing HP. You are still only on 30 gold right now on 3-3, so a little bit lacking in that regard, but it's still going to be a good pivot right there. lostboymaa has a GA, has an IE. Maybe we'll see something like a Talon, but by no means are we locked into that. There's a lot of ways that this composition can go, but they're in an even rougher spot, I think, actually. Lower HP, 56, lowest in the lobby, only on 20 gold. Really not that much direction, honestly. There's a GA holder on the Jack. Jax. There's the IE on the Tryndamere, but that's not really going to be like a main carry oftentimes.
Yeah. This is also the most amount of money we've ever seen, like not ever seen, that we've seen lostboymaa with today, right? Is 20 gold. Remember, this was the same player that had to just like pinch pennies to find their units. Reminds about me in college, right? When I was eating like cheese for dinner. Which I still do by choice. Still, I'm not gonna lie to all of you. I literally had cheese for dinner last night. Anyway,
you're doing great.
And I was like, "Why is my stomach sick today?" lostboymaa now having a little bit of a better time, I think, than the last game, but this is still not great.
Especially now with the Kale, being able to make it a duelist Kale actually as well. With the Divine already, the Jax is in there. It needs to replace it eventually to get the GA off, or when the Lucky Lantern pops through, get a Magnetic Remover, and you're just A-okay. But this is some much needed direction, I think.
Oh, man, like that's definitely true, because the last time we saw lostboymaa, it was no direction whatsoever, right? We even had to sell duplicates of our units, right, just to make money and potentially make something happen as we get a Lucky Lantern and a loaded dice. Oh no, it just looks like a loaded dice. It's 2 magnetic removers. So thank goodness. Much better, I think, choices here. I love magnetic remover, to be completely honest with you. I think it's really target dummy and magnetic remover are probably my 2 most interesting lantern pickups. The Reforger has like a cool RNG element to it, and then we'll talk about loaded dice probably later when we see it. But magnetic remover is really cool because it allows you to pivot your items off of your initial chosen onto your carry a little later on. It definitely helps Kale comps, but it gives you just so much more flexibility on your items, right? If you want to try an RFC on your Orm, you got a free round with it.
I think the last round they would have, if they had enough time, they would have swapped it over immediately. But yeah, Magnetic Remover I think is great, especially in the scenario I was just talking about. They actually did decide to swap off of the Jax by selling it entirely instead of using one of those item removers to then swap the GA onto the Tryndamere. But either way, they have some direction. Okay, another Jax was bought, so they just want to save the magnetic removers for later on, and I don't blame them in that regard. Jax isn't going to be too hard to find in this scenario. We don't have 4 duelists in, we don't have any chosens, we actually don't even have any upgraded units, so while we have direction, it still needs to get a little bit better before we're really going to be comfortable. There's 2 fortunes here by putting in that Darius, but Olaf would probably just be better.
We're still like driving in the neighborhood right now, but we need to get onto the highway at some point, and we do not know where the exit is. Is I think where lostboymaa is right now. At least again, we have 40 gold. That's much better economy management than we saw lostboymaa on the last round. But this is where I think a lot of other players get baited into being like, Kale's not that good, right? Where you get into a situation like this, she's paper thin, right? You only have the other divine buff. And I know when I play Kale, I love putting non-best in slot items in her because I love pain. And so I know the feeling sometimes when it comes to these Kales. You think you put it in and you're like, I'm going to start winning. And while lostboymaa did win that round, it is not a guarantee on some of these other matchups.
Yeah, not even gonna be waiting for that rod to potentially turn into a Rage Blade or anything of the sort. I think it's a little bit just inflexible to already slam the Ionic Spark there. I think both those items could have gone into better things, to be honest. Maybe another spatula here, maybe 2 spatulas. Okay, it's a Nico and a spatula. There is an option for Elderwood or Warlord spatulas right now. Probably not going to go for either of those. Honestly, could go for another duelist spat if they get another bow. I think that would be solid, but they are going to be leveling up to 7 and rolling it down once again. And this is the spot where I think I'm worried about for lostboymaa, because it's what they got into last game. It is where all their gold went down to, and it was just rolling gold into the void and not really finding anything from it. They do have a pair of Kales here, but once again, units besides the Jax are not upgraded.
I just every time I see him hovering over the Zed, I'm like, no. Don't do it. It might make sense because you've got a Darius on the field. You already have 2 Slayers on the field, but that's a bait if I've ever seen one. But this Kale in the back line at least going to take some units down. But I mean, man, these duelist Kales are everywhere. As the pillow fight happens, pillow
Yeah.
fights win 7th and 8th go up against each other, and Nolan's actually going to win out because better items.
Yeah, Luna actually lost her first round. I'd be curious to checking out with her board there and kind of see where it's at. Generally, if you're playing strongest board for the other game, now is about the time where you might take a loss, but you know the value is already there, right? That you've already gotten so much, and yeah, she's already starting to level up to level 8 right now with holding 4 keeper, 3 cultist, and this is actually like this is beautiful here in terms of game pacing. Still that Sivir in there, that built-in Zeke's kind of for your whole team as you were talking about. You have the Xayah in as well, and she's going to be not doing that much damage because no items, but still part of that 4 keeper buff right now. 2 spirits, so this would be so much attack speed. That TF hard carrying. You can. She'll probably go to level 8 at 4-5 right after the stage 4 carousel here, and then roll down on 5-1. She has the HP to do that, still be strong. Probably can't go into Kale, which might be what she's looking for because those items, you know, with the Rage Blade and the Hodge kind of say Kale for me. But it can go to other things there. It's just a worry that if all the kills are taken by stage 5, that she will be in trouble if she commits to that kind of pivot.
Yo, that Sivir was a little bit of an MVP that round. I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw that, but like a lot of work done through that Sivir. But don't let that bait you into keeping that Sivir for too long. Just because I've definitely fallen victim to that, where a lot of units in this game are really strong and then just fall off a cliff, right? Depending on how the rest of the lobby is. And Sivir is definitely one of those units that will be variable in terms of impact based on the rest of the lobby. Say there's a lot of CC, Sivir never gets the ult. She's just a wasted unit at that point,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And so now when it comes to what Luna needs to do, right? We have so much HP. Our economy is really great. The Jirachy was in a similar situation. What the Jirachy couldn't do is that they had a hard time finishing out the game, right? What Luna needs to do now is find out how she's going to, you know, win, right? We're set up for the win right now, and we're probably not going to win with a 4 keeper comp. So, you know, you said that there was a little bit of a opportunity
Oh,
for Kale, but that might not
wow.
happen as whew,
Feathers
sometimes
fly.
Xayah will do that, right? Sometimes Xayah will
Yeah.
do that, but we still have a little while to go before I'm confident to say that Luna is gonna win the lobby outright. As I
Yeah.
think this is the point where a lot of our lower lobbied players are actually going to start getting strong, as there are some Kale 2s now, and I think you're right. There's at least 4 Kales out of the pool. That means there's only 8 left or 7 left, which means only 2 more people could get a Kale 2 if they choose.
Yeah, I think there might actually be more. Yeah, at least 3 players running Kale. One of them has a Kale too, so there's even more than that already gone from the pool, I believe. Because yeah, Yiggles in second is running them as well as Noel and lostboymaa. So I mean, Luna is identifying that. She's recognizing that this might not be a thing that she's actually able to do. And I want to take a moment to actually compliment Luna on a very, very, very small thing that probably not everybody noticed in that last round. Is that she bought all the units in the shop at the beginning of the round and sold them immediately. And you might thinking like, okay, what does that do? It gives a very, very probably inconsequential, but slight possibility for those units to be rolled by other players and their units that they might not want instead. So it just, you know, a very, very slight thing that players like Luna, who are, you know, not only professionals, but like one of the best in their craft from other games, would be looking to do, utilize every single advantage that you can. So just want to take a moment to kind of compliment that, because those are the things that separates good players from great players.
Yeah, so I've been a Luna fan for quite a bit, probably since I've been like a gamer, to be completely honest with you. Hearthstone's one of one of the first games that I ever became like competitive in,
Yeah.
and I think Luna is one of the greatest minds there, to be completely honest with you. And
Definitely.
so
It
like
shows here.
the type of mathematical awareness of just stats and probabilities is so ingrained in the Hearthstone community, right?
Yeah.
That I think that like it transitions. That's one of those kind of adjacent skills that transitions. That's going to be a little easier here, I think, than versus Hearthstone when every card draws a percent chance of something. Right. And I think that's why Hearthstone players do have so much success in TFT. Chess players, poker players have so much success in TFT because they're just they understand probabilities so well. And
Yeah.
that's what we mean by RNG manipulation, right? Is exactly what you talked about Luna doing, is we're manipulating RNG for other characters, for other people in this lobby to give me a better chance. And that potentially, you know, a very small decision. We had a lobby a couple weeks ago have a 1-1 final round, right? So that could happen, and that decision could be a reason why you get there. So mad props to a lot of those kind of analytical minds in the biz right now. I think, you know, GV8, another one in the TFT community, Master Keen, another one as well. Keen also coming from some card games in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I think notably, I'm trying to think of like, oh yeah, who is like ex Hearthstone players that who still plays, and Fluffy, I think, is a name that definitely comes to mind. Fluffy, European player, really, really good Hearthstone player, now one of the best TFT players, of course, that those skills translate very, very well. And like, we'll never actually know. I don't think like if the, you know, selling those units to the shop like actually made the difference, but it could have, and like that's what matters, right? Like you never see the tangible results of that decision, but you know it's the correct one to make if you have the time to be able to do it, as opposed to doing everything else in TFT because you need to scout, position, you know, yada yada yada. There was always so much to do. But yeah, we'll see. And I'm really curious to see this roll down here from Luna and what it will result in. Of course, the kills are going to be so hard to find, but what else are we going to go into, right? Going to be maybe just swapping these items to the Zaya, and then maybe waiting for some kill players to drop, because the kill players are kind of low right now. lostboymaa being one of them is at 11 HP. So as soon as they're out, boom, there's kills that are already back in the pool here. But still going to be riding this TF carry. Carry, I say, quote unquote, because it's 5-1, and TF doesn't really do that well in carrying at this point in time.
If it's protected, anyone can carry, right? And right now there is a lot of damage going through onto Lost Boy, who is the one with the tier 2 Kale, but not enough.
Is this winnable? Okay.
Okay.
So close, actually.
Yeah, it stopped me in my tracks because, you know, that Sivir crits, that might have gone, like, she gets 2 crits in a row. You never know, right?
Yeah.
Janna 3 now from Contrado, by the way. So obviously Contrado likes some enlightened units, was our Talon 3 player a little earlier. And that's the thing about Talon too. Not really a lot of people running Talon comps. You know, Spirit Assassin is a little old school right now after that Spirit nerf on the last patch. And so not a ton of Talon, but in terms of like a consolation comp, in the last set, in set 4, it was Ari and was mega inconsistent. I think Talon is going to be run a little bit better, especially with items. But you saw last time, CC is the death sentence for that character. So easily counterable. Will Luna, though, be able to break this loss streak? This the Zaya not really going to be lasting that long, and this is a pretty beefy Olaf, friends, with some good items. Those might be the best items. What would you say for Olaf right now and MrMeeSeeks?
Yeah, Olaf definitely said it before. I think GA, Deathblade, Runeance by far best in slot. Swapping even one of those out, it definitely is a noticeable difference. And okay, Luna does find 1 kill there, so that's great. But MrMeeSeeks' comp, though, with that Olaf, also had a Samira in there, and it had a Mana Zane Swain too. So with that, with the Dragon Soul buff providing there, that's just gonna be so strong. MrMeeSeeks in a very dominant spot here. Luna less so in terms of dominant spot, but still not in a bad one. Only needs 1 more Kale and has, you know, 30, maybe even 40 gold, at least right now, to roll with. And they're still at 54 HP, a very respectable number for how well they've played this game so far.
Yeah, I think so too. And look at the rest of the lobby. This is actually something that second lobby in a row where 2 people are just way ahead of everyone else. Right? And that means the power has really been consolidated. Contrada was in this exact same position last lobby. If you guys are curious as to why we don't go see certain people, it tends to be stream quality or something else out of our control. So Contrada is going to have to be observed through some scouting. But the thing that I'm noticing from that scouting is that enlightened love, a Janna 3, can be really scary. It's not going to last a long time, maybe against a Talon or if it gets focused down by a Nidalee Spear. But before it gets there, the attack damage increase is pretty substantial. So, and it should be able to tag on, I believe it's 3 people at tier 3, right? Or 4 people.
For which?
For tier 3 Janna.
For tier 3 Janna? Oh, I believe it is. How do I actually? I want to say it's 3. It could be 4.
Yeah, I feel like
I
it's
actually don't
3.
know of him.
We'll confirm that a little bit later. This is actually really nice roll down though.
Oh, it's 4. It's 4 at tier 3. Okay,
Cool.
just confirmed
Yeah.
it. It's 4. So that's a lot of shields, a lot of AD.
It's a lot of stats, right? It's not, so and so attack damage for one person. It's additive across 4 different people, and those units in enlightened comps like the Fiora and the Talon really can help with that. But the Jan is usually dead before the Talon gets the shield, so we shall see. As Yiggles is someone that Luna would love to beat right now, so we can get a couple Kales back. Actually, on Monday, there was that exact situation where our first place player was waiting for some Warlord units, and Ramblin had all of them, but Ramblin ended up dying, and then the person looking for the Warlord units got them and won. And so same kind of situation with the Kales right now.
Definitely, and that was a really important win for Yiggles, not only in terms of them just surviving the lobby, but it also means they're denying Luna. So Luna actually, while they do have an HP lead right now, might not maintain that for very long, sitting on only that kill 1. Concentrado over there has a tier 2 kill. Yiggles has a tier 2 kill. And I believe, what was it, Noel had one as well?
Maw had one at some point.
Yeah, it was lostboymaa. Yeah, those are back in the pool. Also, DimDanSum actually went 8th this game. Didn't talk about that. I don't think, or at least briefly mentioned it. But going from 1st to 8th, bit of inconsistency there. Jirachy actually running a talent composition with some less than ideal, I would say, talent items. It still can work out though, especially into the Kale, because it is a good matchup.
Yeah, this is one of the few matchups that Kale just loses. Like straight up. If the Talon sees the Kale, it's over. The rule of thumb is that by the time your units get to like 4v4 and you're not by the Kale, you're gonna lose. Is kind of like the rule of thumb. You want to be within 1 hex of the Kale. Halfway through the fight, in my opinion, and that's exactly what happened. And Talon is a really great way to access it. I've actually seen some really interesting Aatrox plays recently, pulling people out of the corners, because cornered units are really strong right now too, and like the Kale, for example. And so you put an Aatrox in, you force the whole lobby to reposition accordingly.
Definitely great utilization of those kind of characters to manipulate the strength of the board in that regard. Yiggles down to 1 life left. Same with Jirachy on 6 and 5 HP respectively. Yiggles finding the upgrade in terms of an Aurelia too. Can't really find too much more. I mean, could get the Yone or the Shen. Now 1 roll left, can only really hit the Shen for upgrades. Need to be worried about scouting and positioning at this time, as that's going to be the major thing. And even moving... Ooh, okay. Okay, actually sells a couple units there to be able to put the Nico, and that's gives 4 Mystic, and that's actually really, really good in this matchup here specifically against the Kale Morgana.
Yep. Where did the Ludens land? That was really fast. Okay, it's on Aatrox. Jesus, that mouse went like 8 million miles an hour. Okay, so Yiggles now with the Kale in the corner is going to be going up against the Nasus. And Nasus isn't the nicest right now, as they're going to fall pretty quickly. This is where your reroll comps really do start falling off against the Kale comps. Reroll comps really want the game to go as quickly as possible, right? When you get really far ahead on Warlord comps, for example, you're going to be doing 11 damage like really early on, and that's going to be additive, right? That's why some of our lobbies have been really short, to be completely honest with you. And so now that we're in the top 4, Kales are back. Right? Can Luna find those Kales? It's going to be up to her. Yiggles already owns the other Kales. Not quite seeing what Contrado is at right now, but did lose. MrMeeSeeks has that Olaf, is where we're at, everyone. So still Kale 1 for Luna, going up against Yiggles once again. And I believe, did Luna win the last matchup here against Yiggles?
Yiggles won.
Oh, barely by one unit. That's right. Going to win a lot more this time around and eliminate Luna into 4th place. But on the way up for them, top 3 right now. MrMeeSeeks actually top 3ing in all lobbies so far. Proud of you, buddy. Like, that's actually really good for MrMeeSeeks.
Definitely. Some good consistency there, and I know that was the concern earlier. And Concentrado is also running a kill composition as well, so many people relying on that. And exactly what I was referencing before actually happened. Luna did go out or before Yiggles because of only having that kill 1. It seemed like Luna was in such dominant position. You can transition, you're holding items, but not hitting the units that you want because so many other
Yep.
people are taking them before you can grab them is going to be a concern. Actually, like, thankfully they're able to get at least a fourth here. The Jirachy actually got eliminated in exactly fifth once again for the second game in a row here. So similar trends happening there. But now Concentrado versus Yiggles in this matchup, Kale versus Kale. But the RFC, I think, is going to be the difference maker here because other Kale has to be walking forward and is losing damage on that whole time where they're actually walking.
So is that 5 Kale players this lobby then? So
I
that's
think it was,
yeah. Noel, Lost Boy, Contrado, Yiggles. So at least 4.
4, maybe 5.
Oh, and Luna, and so that's 5. So Kale's good, everyone. If that's not proof enough, is that more than half of our lobby went after it, and one of our players actually lost because they went so hard after it, right?
Yeah, definitely. MrMeeSeeks being the only player with a win streak right now. Yiggles on a 3 win streak at least. Didn't hit that 4 yet to be on fire. Has a GA to put on somebody right now. Honestly, I think it might just go on the Aatrox. Being able to maybe get another pull off can be massive. It might be the thing that is able to take down a Samira, considering when Samira's ulting, she's going to be dodging every auto, but can still be taken out by spell damage and things of the like.
Make sure your scout. You have more time to scout at this point in the game, right? There's less people, so make sure you're doing it. There's so many times where just moving one unit could actually win you around. Who your Lee Sin targets first, for example, right? Collector actually on that Morgana, really interesting item on it. I actually love that idea.
That's
As
really
MrMeeSeeks is going to win another double elimination to end. MrMeeSeeks, man, these lobbies are quick. MrMeeSeeks wins with that 10 points. This is going to be a interesting score sheet. I believe MrMeeSeeks should have a lead at this point, but I'm wondering what is going on below that, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, we know DimDanSum went first and then 8th, so they at least have 11 points. We know there's a couple fourths there for Luna, so that's at least 12 points. I believe. Oh wait, no, Luna. Oh, there's this. Wait, I thought. Oh, maybe I'm insane. But either way, it's going to be MrMeeSeeks in first place right now with 17 points, leading things off. Concentrado, the player who got a couple seconds in a row, so they're at 16. Yiggles going to be in third with 13, and DimDanSum with the 11 in fourth.
Yeah. The bottom 4 still looking up at the top 3 right now. I don't think remember we called Jirachy the most consistent player in the lobby. Here it is, right? And this time around, right? I feel like that playstyle can be a coin flip sometimes, right? Sometimes
Definitely.
you just get some like top heavy lobbies, right? And 5th just isn't enough. I believe all 5th places last week would have been fine for top 3, right? So it is just the week that we're here. Jirachy's, consistency not really bringing them the results that we need right now, and we're 3 points behind 4th, 5 points behind 3rd. So the other consistency that we're having is actually in our top 3, 6 and 7, 8, 8, 7, and 10. That's really hard for the rest of the lobby.
Definitely being able to top 4 in consecutive lobbies, multiple players, goes to maybe show there is a little bit of a gap in this lobby in terms of those placements there. Just narrowly going to be eking out. I know it was like in game 1 there was 4 players being eliminated at once, but just those micro decisions that can really make the difference there. And it seems as though we know who's going to be making those at least a bit more consistently. But we'll see what happens after the break, because we will have a short one. But when we get back, we'll have the final 2 games of this week's Fight Night Rising and see who will claim victory. But until then, stay tuned, and we'll see you soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fight Night Rising. We are halfway through, which means 2 more games left to go. And Boop, wanted to ask if you've seen anything so far that you wanted to comment on a bit further, maybe, or some trends before we go into our game number 3.
So it's Kyle. It's Kyle Day.
Oh yeah,
right. It is the day of the Kyle, which is Kale, of course. And Kale was attempted by 5 different comps the last go around. So what I'm interested in is what are we going to see next, right? Because what is the counter to Kale? Right now, I don't think really anyone truly knows, but
yeah,
it's Talon from what we've seen today if he doesn't get CC'd. So I think that eventually these Enlightened comps might find a little bit more of a foothold, especially with Fiora tank being a popular reroll comp right now.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens after this, but it has been pretty meta defined so far today versus some of our other Fight Night Risings, which have taken on a little bit of a life of their own in the past.
Definitely. And I was just looking a bit at the last game. I have it pulled up here, and there was also a lack of, one cost rerolls in that game as well. What did happen though was Concentrado did actually end up with a Nasus 3, but it was only had Thieves Gloves, and really the Kale was more so the pivotal reason why that composition got to a second. Didn't win, got taken out, of course, by MrMeeSeeks and that Olaf, but rerolling, we came in here being like, oh yeah, it's the reroll meta today, even like before the show, but we honestly haven't seen like too much of it. Like 3 one cost, at least like 1 cost rerolls over the course of 2 games so far.
Yep, and 2 of them were duelists, right?
Yeah,
So it's not even just like a spread of the reroll comps, like Warlord and Duelist and Brawler, but just Duelist right now, just Yasuo reroll comps, and then even some of those comps are just transitioning into Kale a little bit later. So the only one that's really not doing that, like, is playing very unique, I would say, is the Jirachy.
hmm,
When it comes to play style, isn't adhering to, I think, a lot of the general quote unquote rules of the current meta, but that's only really been it's gotten us 2 fifth places so far. We know that the Jirachy is incredibly consistent when it comes to their placements, but I don't think that consistency is enough today. It was last week, but today we need to. I would love to see the Jirachy win a lobby, as I think that's the next step in their progress as a professional
yeah.
here.
It just doesn't seem as their playstyle lends itself to getting many firsts. Of course, I'm sure they do. If the game goes goes in the right direction, that is also comfortable with their playstyle. But it seems as though their playstyle very much is being comfortable with, I'm getting a top 4, and we're going to be cool with that. We're chilling and move on from there. But we'll see what adaptations are made, if any, moving into this game number 3. But we do start off on the perspective of Noel with a Wukong and a bow that could actually have some longevity in this game. But yeah, I don't think we've seen a Wukong. Yeah, we haven't seen a Wukong reroll today, but might get some Bonky Kong action, especially if there is another Wukong and Nasus in the shop here.
That's why I got a little excited. I don't know what it is about Donkey Kong, but I love it. I think it might just be the name, but when I see it,
The name is
I
very
get yeah, it's probably one of the best created names in TFT history, to be honest with you. But like when
good.
I see it and we just get to say Donkey Kong a bunch of times, like it's so fun. And like just the spectacle of Donkey Kong is actually really funny to me as well. But we might see it. Donkey Kong is a reroll comp right now. We already have 2, especially if we get another Wukong in the next pack. I assume we're gonna pick it up and either go into Warlords and Vanguards, or completely drop it.
Yeah. Could hold on to it for another round. I mean, there was no Wukongs or Nasuses in this
Oh
shop.
yeah, we
There's a
still have
couple of
more.
Yasuos. Yeah. There's a couple of Yasuos. Just gonna be, playing all these units in here. Don't really need to commit to anything. You're gonna be getting gold here as well, so you can buy out the shop, increase your odds for getting other 1 costs. Or maybe we get like an Aurelia, I don't know, plus some other random 3 cost unit. Maybe play the Aurelia just for Divine. Also a thing that can happen. We would be probably playing for levels there, and the 3 costs that we get are Shyvana and the Yuumi. And now it actually opens up a world where brawlers could be a good transition here, especially with now the couple of Rakans and Tom Kench here. I wouldn't be surprised if all of these Wukongs are sold. And yeah, we go with the brawlers right here. There's already the RFC for Shyvana, which is a great item. She wants optimally 3 bows, and already having 2 of them is going to be wonderful.
Good call. I love this play here. You can get 100% baited into a reroll comp in this position, right?
Yeah.
You have your 2 Wukongs, you have the items for Donkey Kong, right? And because RFC with Donkey Kong is pretty good, and so honestly was where it got its name originally, back at the very like literally like the first ever patch for set 4. I think Donkey Kong was like the first ever people came up with. And I think maybe that history is a little nostalgic to me too. But yeah, I love the fact that we didn't get baited into following that Wukong. That's a mistake that I have made, right? Same thing with the Yasuo player a little earlier today. We got 4 or 5 Yasuos, but we bailed on it because we didn't see a future with it. It's not you, it's me. You know what I mean? So they broke up with those comps and, you know, got together with another one instead, and it seems like an upgrade.
Definitely. The keeper chosen Rakan actually is very interesting because I think you would actually want to run it right now, at least for stage 2. You can preserve a win streak with what you have going on right here. Don't know if Noel will actually commit to it, but I would definitely be tempted to run it in the meantime here. But it is interesting seeing this as a brawler committal right now, or at least seemingly like a committal. It's not, of course, the RFC hasn't been committed to, but still direction here nonetheless. But I actually want to pose a question to you, Boop. We've had 2 brawler compositions so far today. Guess where they ended up if you don't remember?
They were in the bottom, right?
They were indeed at the bottom. They were 6th place and 8th place. So we have not seen success from brawler compositions here today. I wonder if this is going to be the time where it can kind of turn that around, because they can very well be good and can scale well, even net first places when you get, you know, your set online for 8 brawlers. Get your Shyvana to that tier 3 optimally you're going to want with some really strong items, but Noel has a long way to go for even that.
And if you're Gunmei, you can throw by putting a mage cap on the Shyvana for the walls. I loved it. Proud
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I would 100% have done the same thing just to see what happened. Maybe not in a fight night, but that's like my favorite thing about Gunmei. Just like the moxie on that man to do something like that, and it worked for a round. That's a funny statement.
It worked for a round.
Totally worked for a round. Singular.
That was that.
Yeah. Gunmei, man. Love that player. Anyway, Noel sitting on the top of the leaderboard with this brawler comp. I love the Rakan chosen here. It functions as like a quasi-brawler at that point. And the Rakan ultimate is going to allow these brawlers to tag a lot more damage than they initially might have not been able to do. Like, for example, Rakan does an ult there. Maybe we, you know, don't kill that 3rd unit, and maybe we, you know, don't get this good loss here with the Shyvana. Almost just 1 unit, but 2 units in the end. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that was because of that Rakan, and unfortunately, we're in a 4-way tie for carousel. So the way that you figure out ties, friends at home, is see who you're horizontal against, and that's how you know if you won the tiebreaker.
Yep, actually, Noel gets to pick second. They're across from the Jirachy. Jirachy picks second, so does Noel here. That's really huge, actually, being able to pick second versus picking last. Person who picks last there, which is going to be lostboymaa, definitely feels bad.
Yeah, I mean, I never roll the good pick when I'm tied with anybody. I have like notoriously bad luck for the majority of my life, and then all my luck happens at like once. To where I get like a false narrative of, oh, I am a lucky person, and then I go to Vegas, and then it's like, I'm not lucky. Let's watch a show. Let's go watch a show. And so with this pickup, we're looking at a Hodge potentially. On the Shyvana, pretty good item for them. We could also just kind of sneak in a couple other units. We could sell, or we can XP. So we're actually going to add another keeper instead.
Yeah, I think it's a solid move. I would want the Hodge to be slammed here. It's a very flexible item that can remain on the Shyvana for the whole game, or it can go to something like a Kale or Olaf or whatever it might be. But okay, the Shyvana actually going to jump right into the Fiora. A little unlucky. It's going to get stun locked out here and probably net Noel another loss, but that's okay if they go on just a few loss streak before the Krug rounds. But Hodge, I mean, the healing is kind of there. Not gonna be there for a while though.
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda there.
Fiora crushing it right
Double
now.
Fiora, actually.
You know, it's Fiora. I would actually be like moderately upset if Fiora was ever not in a set. Like,
that's just expectation at this point. It's like, okay, Fiora's just gonna be there as the 1-cost unit who has riposte. Like, it's just has to happen.
It's almost perfect design when it comes to like a one cost unit, in my opinion. The way that she works, like I I'm like I've grown attached to a couple units that have been a couple other sets. Kindred is another one that I would be okay with in most sets in terms of like just in terms of design. I think
Yeah.
Kindred is so cool. But yeah, I think what DimDanSum needs to do right now is hopefully not end up in Fortune jail. So let me tell you about Monday real quick. So we had a lot of people play Fortune and none of them got over 6th. And the reason why is because they lost streak, and I think the highest HP payout was at a 7 loss streak at 37 HP.
Oof.
And at that point, like
Yeah.
one, your fortune payout might not actually. We actually had one where it was almost all money and no items, and they actually didn't really get that much stronger. Huge feels bad. Then we had another. I think it was one of those quad Thieves Clubs ones, and that was weird because it actually clogged up their team. And then the other one, they cashed out at 8 HP and then lost the next round. Right, so
Yeah.
you really, really have to not push past. I think if you don't cash out on 3-6 or 3-7, it's almost over for you as a Fortune player. You might be able to get past that, but you want to be able to win at least by then.
Yeah, the meta is so aggressive. I don't know, we haven't seen that many of them today, but still, the reroll compositions, when they spike online early, they punish Fortune, makes it harder for you to actually cash out. People leveling to 6 on 3-2, but then also rolling down a bit as well, which some people do in this meta, also punishes Fortune loss streak as well. The only time you can really run Fortune reliably is if you're running a Fortune with a win streak here. DimDanSum not doing that, has not cashed out yet. Hopefully can at some point in stage 3, but their gold's pretty low. So I think that like you would want to optimally be able to level to 6 at 3-5 or 7, excuse me, at 3-5 and roll down a little bit to cash out before Wolves, but there's no guarantee. There's just not the gold to be able to do that.
Yeah, if you enter 4-1 without cashing out, your chances go exponentially lower to cash out just by the way the game works, how people level up, the units that appear at that moment in time. It's going to be a lot harder. We're not there yet. We're kind of trying to tell the future as we speak, but this is probably going to be a loss as well. That's actually pretty good Thieves Club roll for Fiora. You want the Fiora to be pretty tanky if you're gonna run that comp. And Contrado, Contrado's it looks like an enlightened one trick so far today.
Yeah, they ran it that talent in game number 1, of course, and then they ran the the Janna with the, I mean, it was the Nasus and the Kale, but still had some light units with the Janna 3 as well in that game. So kind of sticking to the trend here. We do have a chosen Darius right now. Darius, unfortunately, for some people's sake, not really a great unit in this set 4.5, but at this point in the game is one of the only chances or only times that really run him to some effectiveness. It's going to be, helping you cash in on that fortune, hopefully. Going to be doing a little bit of damage as well, but not going to stick with them for that long.
The Slayer is going to help get at least 1 or 2 more ults as well. We keep everyone in the back line, so the targeting goes onto the tanks. The Katarina targeting onto the Annie is perfect, and we're starting to, do some jamming right now. But if the Darius jams, well, the Garen is spinning, you're not going to do any damage. But yeah, you're right. The Darius is going to carry through this round. We're going to cash out and hopefully move away from Fortune, unless we're mega greedy and we think we could win through.
The cash out, it's happening. A bunch of gold and the Nico and a glove. Not bad there, actually. We get to catch up on some much needed gold, and we get a Nico, which you're never really sad about at this point in the game.
All right, let's go over to Lost Boy, because it's actually one of the first times that we've seen Lost Boy in the top half of the leaderboards right now. So when we get an opportunity to, I'd love to see that, because Lost Boy has had some economy issues, just management issues when it comes to their economy. I believe a 7th place both times, and 8th place maybe last game.
It was a 8th place in game 1, 7th place last game, so slowly getting slightly better, but hopefully it'll be even better placement in this one.
Exactly, and so we're actually looking pretty good right now, as Luna has 50 gold, so Luna's going to be able to make some decisions after this as well.
Yeah, a couple of kids on the bench there. Level 5 on 3-3 is not standard leveling. Of course, people standard Normally we'll go to level 6 at 3-2, but we are moving on over to lostboymaa, who has, okay, a kind of not a committal to Donkey Kong, but just as an item carrier, some solid units on the board. Not really surprised that this is going as well as it is. Just playing strong board. Great cultist as well in here.
Contrado at the top again. Super impressed. Really impressed, actually. Like, reminds me of DQA a little bit in terms of what this looks like, right?
Yeah.
DQA is a mega aggressive player. 100% of first or eighth will do like the Jirachy thing that we saw earlier today, which is like develop a huge lead. But one thing that DQA can do that some of these other fast starters can do is win these lobbies pretty consistently. And so that's, I think, like, and is also only 17. I feel like I have to mention that when I talk about DQA, because he's also number 1 in the world according to ladder points right now. 17 years old. Anyway,
impressive. Hey, a 16-year-old won set 3 world championships as well.
I know, man. You know, as a music major, I say this a lot. My whole career in music was 11-year-olds being better than me, and so I think I'm a little bit hardened when seeing that. But sometimes people are just built for this, and I think DQA is
different.
Yeah, it's just built to play this game. The Jirachy is looking at this Teemo on lostboymaa's side, and Teemo is so good in the early game. So frustrating. Less frustrating than the mushroom version of it, but Teemo is one of the few reasons why we actually lose by 2 units instead of 4 there, right? Teemo is a delay. Plus, you've got the poison. That blind is awful for a lot of the units in this game right now. As you can see, there are 3 auto attacking based units on that board. If Teemo tags all of them, right, that's 80% of your damage for 3 seconds. That's just not there. And in the early game, 3 seconds is a long time, because in the early game, rounds last longer. So Teemo gets better.
Yeah. Definitely still an annoying champion, and as you were saying, less annoying than the mushroom version. And we're just talking about, DQA and KC Devil. KC Devil just quickly, got the set the world championship victory off of getting a couple Teemo 3s back when he was a 4-cost unit, strangely enough. And that was, oh man, that was some stuff right there. Teemo not going to be quite as dominant as that in this set, but still going to be a very, very solid unit, especially with the rework to Spirit. I don't think we talked about Spirit too much today. It is very solid synergy. It did get nerfed from set 4.5 launch. At the 4 piece there, it's gonna be 35% instead of 40%, but still gonna be great. And Luna actually is going for a reroll composition in this game. That's why we saw the kindred spirits being held on the bench, is because there's a Diana reroll in this game. So gonna be seeing some more reroll, and gonna be curious to check in with the power spike there, the effectiveness of it at this point, because 44 HP is a little low. Getting it on wolves is slightly late.
It's on the the late side of slightly late, in my opinion. Perfect case scenarios, you have it around 3-2, right? We're at 3-7 a couple rounds later, and we're gonna do it anyway. I wonder what the items are, as well as, man, Yiggles and Luna seem to be running very similar comps all the time, which is unfortunate. A lot of hand holding right now in this particular lobby, as Contrado is leading. Noel, loving to see someone who hasn't really had the best day finally find their footing somewhere. Where MrMeeSeeks is at the bottom of the leaderboard. It's almost like today, if you get first place, you're gonna get 8th place to the next lobby. I mean, it has been a precipitous fall for our defending lobby winners right now, as MrMeeSeeks did win that last lobby.
Definitely, yeah. A bit of inconsistency today, but again, I think that just goes with the meta a little bit. It's going to be MrMeeSeeks running that Olaf once again, actually, with the RFC this time instead of any GA. And because there's no GA, just gets taken out so quickly by the Diana there. This 4 Assassin, 4 Spirit composition, which is really strong in the meta, if you're able to get it online, is in fact online now. And has pushed level 7, still 30 gold left. So Luna actually is in a pretty solid spot right now. Just needs to worry about getting those other units upgraded, but there's already like Kali 2, there's already Kindred 2 as well with the Hodge, so looking solid. The main thing right now is to get a 3rd item for the Diana. That's the big priority here for Luna.
Shout outs real quick to Contrado and the Brazilian TFT community. I don't know if we've had maybe we have, but at least since I've been casting Fight Night, one of the first Brazilian representatives I think we've had on a Fight Night Rising. And here's a little piece of Boopasaurus trivia, Khroen. If it wasn't for the Brazilian community, I probably wouldn't be here, as all of my initial esports stuff was in Latin America and Brazil.
really?
So much love to that community. I owe them a lot. I also owe 2 years ago, I promised to dye my hair blue because a team called Up Gaming lost, and I thought they would win, and I never did it. So I definitely, I definitely owe you something
Yeah,
at some point. But I just wanted to shout out as the South American and Brazilian esports communities, I think, are absolutely wonderful, and
oh yeah,
makes sense that they're here. As I don't know if you know, but mobile
very
gaming in Brazil is very popular, and so I expect TFT to actually have a pretty big influx of Brazilian players on the top end here
yeah.
soon.
Brazilian players very good at TFT as well. Brazil actually did the second best at the Set 3 Worlds. I keep referencing that, but it just reminds me of Slooper. Slooper, I believe, got third in that tournament, and there was two European players got first and second, and then a European player got
Hmm.
fourth. So yeah, Brazil very good at TFT as well.
Yep, and I believe did really well at the Hearthstone kind of BlizzCon stuff a couple years ago too. So really coming on like the card game auto battler type of
Yeah,
genre, and that's really cool to see. And TFT is an international sport, and that's one of the coolest things about it. Even in this lobby, I believe we have at least two or three countries represented just in these 8 people, and that's really cool.
definitely. TFT bringing us all together from all around the world and, showing their stuff here. As we see from Luna, this Diana is definitely showing her stuff. Going to be netting that at least 3 win streak here. Hopefully, we'll go further, but this is, like I referenced, the pivotal time for Luna. Can she get a good item here to round out the Diana? I'm not sure. I don't remember what exactly was on the item bench there. I know there was the Hodge and the Kindred, but there is still one whole item slot available on the Diana. Gonna be going for, looks like it was gonna be the bow maybe, but it was gonna now be the sword. Can go a gunblade with it. Of course, there's no rod to pair with that right now, but gunblade is oftentimes a solid third item for that Diana.
This Diana is going to need to carry, and it can. So,
Yeah.
really intrigued on how this is going to go. Just like the Talon, though, can get stun locked. Say we, go up against that Fiora comp a little later, and it's like a Fiora 3 versus a Diana 3. There's a real possibility that Fiora just stun locks you, right? So,
Yep.
a QSS could be nice, but I like to put damage on the Diana as the third item. But again, right? This third item is going to be a very interesting choice, because you could go with a Sunfire Cape, you could go with a Thornmail if you want, but none of those are best case scenarios. We also have a loaded dice, which I'm actually
Yeah.
really curious to see where that's going to go in this particular comp, since we already have our tier 3 Diana.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird for Luna to get that at this point because she definitely would have rather had that a lot earlier, before getting Diana 3. Now, meh, it's not really going to get that much value. Of course, there's not really many things that you want to be getting to that tier 3. There's the option for Kindred, like there's one in the shop here, but it looks like she's not looking for that. Be curious to see how other players utilize that, because that will be the best thing. It's actually like pretty bad for Luna that the loaded dice is in here right now, because other players are going to be catching up to her power spike a lot faster now with it.
Excuse me. Whoa. That was very surprised. I'm sorry, everybody, for that. Anyway, get my train of thought back. Okay, so what is really interesting about the loaded dice, and I actually love that we used it in that specific way, is I think for Luna's comp, that was the only way to use it right now, right? Is just to throw it
Yeah.
on somebody and just try to get stronger right now, because of exactly what you said, which is other people are going to be catching up more quickly, right? So how do I keep winning? Well, I got to be stronger right now, and even just a tier 2 unit extra might be good enough. As we're over at the Jirachy, we do have our 6 brawlers. We have a brawler chosen. So right now, all we need to do is look for a set, but it's going to be tough against a Viger 3 in the lobby, who is going to crit you no matter what when it comes to those ultimates. And that was like
Yeah.
10 AP that Viger 3 was able to gain. And Viger 3 at 4-6 is pretty crazy. And it wasn't even a loaded dice Viger. That looks like it was just a natural Viger 3.
Yep, that is very wild. Not only does the Jirachi have to find the set here, but also has to find the Shavada too. still rocking just that Shyvana 1 at Raptors is very, very slow. So needs to get that online. And surely, I don't want to jinx it, but I'll say surely we'll find it with, 50 plus gold to roll down with on 5-1. Hopefully, surely.
Don't call me Shirley. Great movie. The Jirachy now, like you said, is gonna have to roll, right? Okay.
Okay, Elderwood spat potential.
Okay, Elderwood Spat. That's nice for a brawler comp in general. You
Yeah.
already see that there's 2 of them. You can put it on set, and you're feeling pretty great about yourself. So we're gonna go ahead and roll. And if I'm playing, I see all the units I don't need. So let's see what Jirachy's gonna be able to do. Seems very
Uh,
similar so far. Sorry for jinxing you. No sets for you apparently. As we do our roll
okay.
down. 3 Shyvanas in a pack, totally cool. But
Yeah.
in one set, not gonna happen. Sorry.
Loaded dice was even needed for that one. Didn't find it naturally. Didn't find the set either. That's kind of rough. To be honest, really, really, I think like low roll there. Sure, we hit Olaf 2. Sure, we hit a Aurelion Soul 2, but those are kind of whatever units in this composition. They're not gonna be the ones really doing the carrying. Olaf like could, but without pairing him with Slayer, it's really just a Dragon Soul buff.
Exactly, and we do have a Fiora 3
Yep.
on the field right now, and just look at how much HP she still has. It's just weird to see Fiora that strong because, like, Fiora is just the one cost unit of TFT, right? Like, she could be on the cover of the game, in my opinion, if there was a cover, you know what I mean? And seeing her in this kind of powerful position is very, very interesting. As we are getting closer to finishing out this comp, we gotta get
Uh,
our set though.
I mean, do we even at this point? Because Jirachy sold the Shyvana. This is oh snap, I have this, it's not working out. I need to pivot. And it's going to be pivoting into Samira with no Slayer, only 2 sharpshooter. I don't know. This looks like really panicky actually, this pivot. Because it doesn't look clean. It looks like you would have been stronger if you stick with the Shyvana, but maybe I say it too soon. Because oh, actually, it won't even win
Nope.
here.
Yep.
The declaw on that kill, a bit too strong.
And the QSS actually was mega impactful as it blocked the Zephyr that Jirachy had moved already. So they had a good idea, but ended up not being able to accomplish it. And so now we are full pivoting, like you said, at 12 gold. So a little panicky. And usually, actually, Jirachy, like in terms of, you know, mental fortitude, is actually quite strong. This is probably the most panicky we've ever seen them play. To be honest with you, and you can actually see the tension right now through their play. I-
Yeah,
This we get at
it's
least one
awkward.
more round at least, but the bottom 4 right now are the bottom 4, and it's gonna be them eliminating each other most likely throughout the rest of this lobby.
Yeah, I mean, the Samira goes in, she spins, but she doesn't do quite enough. Jirachi on 1 life remaining right now. There's a Samira 2 and an Olaf 2 on the other side for MrMeeSeeks. They rolled down to 0. They got everything going for them, but Jirachi is now it's awkward when you have to make multiple pivots throughout a game. You want to do them at points where you're gonna have some wiggle room, right? Some forgiveness. If you don't, they need to be so clean that there's just no room for error. But there is honestly error right now from Jirachy. Not like intentional error. Like you can't really, you just didn't find anything. Like you have the secondary Olaf in right now, and it was the Zephyr holder. Sure, you can sell it right now, but your composition is just weak. This pivot, it's good in theory if you had more time, more gold, or just better rolls.
Yeah, they are having a hard time right now, and this is actually a position that we have not seen them in a very, very long time. There was like a tournament, like an off tournament that Jirachi struggled a little bit on that we casted like a couple months ago, if you remember. But at least we're getting some
Yeah, I do.
units, right? So we're gonna go ahead and pick that chosen Slayer up. So we went from 6 brawlers to 6 slayers in the matter of 2 rounds. So in terms of being able to get here, that's actually mad props. Um,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we picked first on carousel, and that carousel did have a set on it. So if we just committed to brawlers, right, we would have gotten our set most likely. So
Yeah, I
Hindsight's
think
2020, right?
exactly. I mean, still big on 8. I don't know. Personally, I would have committed to that direction. I think this pivot is a little bit over ambitious. Hopefully, can win this round though if they want to stay alive in this game. But facing up against Noel, who is level 9, has 3-item Callista, has the Olaf online as well. Looks like
This is
this.
gonna be close.
Oh, okay. Olaf actually, and a Reliant install.
Woo-wee! Yeah, that was a very close round. The Asol and the
Oh,
Olaf definitely deserve some dancing right now, in terms of saving the Jirachy's life in that particular round. The other thing that happened there that was very concerning was the Galio locked up the Samira until she died. So we didn't need it the last time, but we probably will on this next round. And as quickly as our last games have gone, this one still has all 8 people remaining on before the last NPC until the Nexus minion round. So this is very, very close. And even from top to bottom, right? This is very unique to Fight Night Rising in terms of these have been some of the closest lobbies just in general that we've seen. They've happened to be 3 lobbies in a row.
yeah. Ooh, okay. The assassin spat on the kindred for Luna right here and going to level 9. This actually might be the end, but the Samira is still alive. She goes in, she spins, and she doesn't clean up enough, unfortunately. Jirachy will be going out. Will it be an 8th? It will not be. lostboymaa is going to lose by more. DimDanSum here as well, looking like they are actually going to win the round. So a 7th for Jirachy there.
This is so close as I go through puberty again, apparently. This is incredible. 3 people, single digits. MrMeeSeeks at 15, and then you've got Contrado at the top with a massive lead right now. But that lead isn't going to be worth as much, especially on a triple item Nexus minion. So double locket here is actually really good when it comes to being able to have a viable late game item, for example. Right? Sometimes you just whiff and get a Warlord spat with no Warlords, right? At least with these lockets, you're gonna be able to do something with them.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to keep that Viker a little bit safer, and you're probably not even gonna have to reposition all that much. To be honest with you, just slap all 3 on the Lulu.
Yep, there we
Yeah.
go. Ionic Spark probably just going on the Sejuani. Maybe can go on the Ornn or the Nunu. Nunu actually would be solid, but honestly, I could see arguments for either the Sedge. Actually, all 3 of them, to be completely honest. But gonna be getting maximum locket value here. Now that you have 3 lockets, I would have maybe liked them to go on the Nunu, actually. Just would have provided more shielding, but neither here nor there. The Veigar is still going to be the main carry in this composition here. Sonya's Paradox going to be on the Sejuani as well, so she won't get taken out nearly as fast. We'll see if the Sejuani ult actually can hit the Diana here, though, because that would be the difference. Oh, she walks into it.
Man, and that Asol's actually going to tear apart that team. Samir now going to ult, but it's not going to be enough to take down that Viger into the back line. But this Declaw isn't going to be enough either. Just too much damage. Luna going to fall. Top 5 now. Yiggles also going to win as well. Will MrMeeSeeks get eliminated? No. So we've got 3 people in single digits once again. That is insane. Like, this doesn't happen this frequently, right? Maybe 1 or 2 of the lobbies, but to have 3 lobbies in a row get to this point is pretty nuts, where literally 1 loss has a difference between, 4 points and 7 points, right?
Yep.
That's a big difference.
Oh, definitely. Could be the difference enough between you winning or not in a fight night in general. Another Ornn artifact actually comes out for DimDanSum here. DimDanSum. There we go. I got it. But the Eternal Winter, and that's a huge item here, especially going up against these frontline auto attackers.
Man, these comps get so beefy in the late game. Jesus. Okay, so it doesn't matter though, because a lot of those items are good against people who auto attack, but this is a pretty heavily magic damage team comp. Will DimDanSum do the 10-1-10 run back when it comes to these lobbies? It could totally happen, as Contrado, I believe, lost, Luna lost, but might not lose again now that we have a Samira. Contrado moving to level 9, which means that we're going to have a unit advantage against DimDanSum, which is a great way to try to compete against something like a Viger 3. This is so close. I think Yiggles in one of the weaker positions in the lobby right now, but you never know. Once the game presses play, the units sometimes have a mind of their own, right?
Yep.
Diana will walk into the corner for no reason. Asa will ult 1 person. On Monday, we actually saw a lobby get decided by Set ulting a Sand Soldier. to nobody. So again, anything can happen. Yiggles, though, with the Yone, is going to try to make me eat my words. Oh, there is a kill too. So Yiggles not as weak as I had anticipated, but once this Viger does get to that Kale, it is going to one-shot it.
Yeah, I mean, gets it into the GA state at least. Aurelion Soul just does the rest. Yiggles will go down in 5th there, actually. DimDanSum making the run back right now.
I like the enthusiasm. Yay! Love it.
Hey,
Nothing
top
will
4
ever
pretty
be.
good.
Yeah, nothing will ever beat single persona eating a smoothie with a spoon. Anyway,
Here's me still stuck on that forever.
I know.
love it.
I actually I wanted to like DM him about it. Just be like, so where did you learn this skill? Is this why you're good at TFT? I'm willing to try anything. Essential oils. Right? I'm not going to work out, but I'll do most other things.
Yeah.
When it comes to getting better at TFT. But DimDanSum having quite the polarizing day. It's, in my opinion, one of the more stressful ways you can play TFT. But that triple lock at Lulu is beefy as well. You can't count out the fact that Lulu is also going to be moderately tanky. There are 3 vests on that Lulu right now. So that's a good amount of tankiness. And with that extra shielding in the back line, that's going to be free ultimates, at least one from both the Asol and the Viger, but probably more.
And it protects so well against the assassins that are jumping into the backline right now from Luna. But Diana just gets taken out so quickly. Luna's going to fall in, for now, 4th, but actually will be 3rd, I believe. Yeah. MrMeeSeeks taking a huge loss there from Concentrado over there.
Yeah, and so especially at 7-1 where we're going to go, you can actually take up to 20 damage in HP loss. I believe the hero damage at 7-1 is like 15? 10?
Yeah, I think it should be. Oh, actually, I have to double check because it has changed a couple times.
Yeah, so we'll get that confirmation. I remember losing 22 health in a round back in yesterday at 7-2. So I know you can get up there. So a 35 HP is at least 2 rounds. So that's it. At this point in time. So this is 1 loss for DimDanSum and Contrado gets 2. And so we might finish it out today. And it's going to be a Titans Resolve Yone against this Viger. So we'll see if this enlightened, Talon assassin with that Bloodthirster is going to be able to make it into the back line. And this is better than anyone else has done so far. But is there enough HP remaining? The answer is no. 25 HP remains. Actually, so Contrado probably has 2 more rounds after this, but 7-1 is going to be a very interesting turnaround for Contrado, especially since Contrado has been at level 9 for a very long time at this point, and DimDanSum has just kind of recently gotten there.
Yeah, so 4 Adept there is actually pretty huge in terms of stalling out pretty much everybody. Actually, yeah, everybody on board for DimDanSum's composition here. And yeah, stage 7 base damage is going to be 15. And then additionally, every unit that survives is going to be more damage add on to that. So at least 15, but which does mean that Concentrado, as you noted, can perhaps survive 1 more loss. Not going to be an automatic victory there if DimDanSum does take another victory, but they're going to be getting even stronger here. There's going to be a 0-2 already finished. I think it was Janna 3 I saw there from Concentrado.
Loves him some Enlightened units. DimDanSum, though, really liking this Viger. Gonna have to buy it some dinner a little bit later to think. Kind of like when you invite your friends over and you're like, "Ha, you're helping me move. Here's some pizza." Right? That's Viger's that friend right now that came over. Viger's the friend even with the truck. Right now that you can use. So will Viger continue to help DimDanSum fight for this first place? So far, actually, a lot of CC into the back line. Not a lot of ultimates right now from that Viger, but every round that Viger is there, it's also gaining AP. This is definitely the closest it has been for DimDanSum in terms of losing a round so far. And when you don't roll healing, it's gonna be tough on that Hodge with that Viger sometimes. And we actually will see DimDanSum take a 2nd place here. There's basically no way, especially after maybe I don't. This is a lot closer than I had expected. Okay. All right, a little bit of hope there at the end. A little bit of frustration, but DimDanSum played quite well. Got that Viger 3 at 4-3. Oh no, 4 something,
Yeah,
right?
stage 4.
Very early on, and that helped push that advantage all the way to a second place.
Yeah, and Concentrado now, actually, we haven't talked about it yet, is on par to tie the record right now at 2 seconds and a first. Concentrado just needs one more first to get that 36-point threshold. It is doable here, Boop.
It is 100% doable. However, fourth lobby consistency, it's like the first 3 lobbies are one thing, and then I think the fourth lobby is another, right?
Yeah.
And I say this every week, and in every TFT cast, I think I will, which is when we get to that fourth lobby, it's about first or eighth at that point in time, especially for MrMeeSeeks, who can still win.
Oh,
Concentrado
yeah.
and DimDanSum, what a day, who, are going to need to go first or eighth. And same thing with Yiggles, Luna, Jirachy, right? It is not over. A first place for any of them can sneak them into the top 3 if DimDanSum gets a last place there for the Jirachy. I believe
Yep.
Noel and Lost Boy are both eliminated, but Jirachy, gets first, and they get a little bit of luck with DimDanSum getting eighth, which has happened. Right? It is not out of the equation. They can still make it. Luna, a little bit more breathing room there. Yiggles, same thing, but there is a pretty large lead for first place, which is
Definitely.
going to be against Contrado and MeeSeeks on this last lobby.
Yeah, Concentrado and Meeseeks, they already have points at the end of game 3 that some players will end all 4 games with a lot of the time, and maybe even 26 points sometimes is able to like win a fight night, but they still have another game to go. It's very much a race between 1 and 2, and then you just have to pray that you're able to get into the top 3 there if you're in a position like you mentioned of like Jirachy or Luna and Yiggles around that kind of area, around that bubble, but very, very impressive here. All 3 games being top forward for both Concentrado and MrMeeSeeks.
The Mirage or Illusion, that is the score list right now, is actually how close these lobbies have been.
Yeah.
Incredibly close. All 3 have had a point where 3, 4, one of them had 5 people at single digits at one point, right? So we're anything that's why this fourth lobby I think is the most chaotic of them all, especially with this group of players. It's like 52 card pickup. Like you can throw the cards up and whatever lands. And that could possibly be the case here, outside of maybe Contrado or Meeseeks being able to get that first place. Really want to see Meeseeks finish it out and get a first place here, as I don't believe they've ever done it. And they've been here a couple times. So that would be really impressive. But also, there's always a spoiler in this lobby, no matter who it is, right? Someone in 6th to 8th place will top 3 in this lobby. I'm willing to bet on it at
Happens
this
every
point in
time.
time. Yeah, I'm willing to bet on it at this point in time. So nothing is set in stone. Luna though might be looking at keeping some duelists or something that's going to help us put a death blade on somebody. But this is only our first NPC round, and so getting 2 swords is a pretty good start.
2 swords, a solid start. It can make it work with a Diana as well, one of them being IE. Oh, just gonna be selling that. Doesn't want to get baited into some Diana rerolls. Though she did get Diana reroll last game. And what was the result of it actually? It was a 3rd place. So solid result, I think, overall.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you expect with that comp. If the
Yeah.
game goes to 7-1, right? 7-2.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so I think that's where you kind of expect the Diana to land. And remember, friends, something I also really want to emphasize is sometimes your best games of the night are the ones you get 6th in. I actually want to give props to the Jirachy there, even though that pivot was a little panicky. The actual pivot was actually pretty clean into the Slayers. And so if that happened earlier with more HP, we might have been able to get stronger, but we ended up facing off against the Viger 3 and getting eliminated. So I definitely want to emphasize the fact that first places aren't everything. I always say that one of my proudest games is a 6th place, right?
Yeah.
And so don't get down on yourself. You're gonna be successful, right? Play clean and be happy with your play, and that's all that matters. And you will improve. If you're too hard on yourself, then it becomes something else. So that's my little 2 cents in terms of professional play there, Khroen.
Yeah, definitely agree with you here. Some very, very wise insight. I'm just kind of staring at staring at Luna's like position here, and it is looks like it's going to be kind of committal to the Yasuo. hesitant to upgrade the Fiora because there is going to be a sword that's, quote unquote stuck on there. Could make it into a Shojin perhaps or something. Go for that tier 3 as well. You still have one sword remaining for the Yasuo, but you also can get away with like a Deathblade in Yasuo. I think like Deathblade rune ends can still function on him. We talked about it earlier. Yasuo can function with a slew of different items there that don't need to be quote unquote best in a slot. And we got some direction here. So it looks like Luna's going to be re-rolling again. Doesn't have to commit to it, but it looks like that's direction, at least as of right now.
Yeah, Yasuo definitely one of the more item agnostic units in the game. TF completely agnostic when it comes to item carrying. Fiora can be as well, but the kind of the flavor of the month is that tank Fiora. I had a Fiora 3 in a game the other day that had Ionic Spark, Dragon Claw, and Gargoyle Stoneplate on it, and that like it was like Satan had created that Fiora against my particular team comp, and it was insanely strong. And so I love that tank version of it, especially since tanks in this game tend to have some form of CC, and so you're kind of making Fiora into that archetype with those items. And Riposte is a very strong stun. It is a long time with it, and at tier 3 you can get that rhythmic auto stun off, which we saw a tier 3 Fiora take down a tier 3 Shyvana a couple weeks ago because of that auto stun.
Yep. Being sunlocked apparently is, pretty good for the Fiora on that side of the board there. But for Luna, maybe not a committal to the duelists, as they did scout and see the Jirachy. Well, the Jirachy is already level 4. They do have 6 Yasuos and a chosen one at that.
Yeah, and a pretty good item with that Hurricane too, as you get to kind of tag team another unit with somebody else. With that Hurricane, spread the love, spread the hate, or spread the damage.
Spread the damage.
Yeah, a little bit better, and we're so close to that Yasuo 3 at this point in time. We might as well re-roll it if we're the Jirachy. That's when like the game is kind of telling you to play this comp. You might as well. And that's where the Jirachy is right now. And honestly, in a fourth lobby where you need to win, you can win with that comp if you're able to golden a couple of those units. So it could totally happen. It would just need Luna. If Luna does decide to break away from this duelist comp, it only helps Jirachy. So it is.
Yep.
I'm intrigued as to when that Yasuo either stays or goes, especially since Luna is already behind on her duelist Yasuo potential.
Yep, I think we'll see some insight as to what decision that she will make at this next carousel after this round to see what item they go for. If they do go for an IE or Giant Slayer or something else that's more item ambiguous, like a Chalice or something of the sort there. I think, oh, actually already 6 cultists here for Noel. I wasn't expecting that at 2-3, but level 5 with that upgraded Galio. That's the fastest I think I've ever seen. 2, 3, 6 cultist Galio.
That's gonna win a couple games. Probably. Like how big that Galio is. You don't really ever get to see it in all of its glory like that.
Yeah.
That skin's actually really cool in game too. I think it's like a pretty underrated skin. Some people think it's really ugly. I actually really like it. Maybe because it's what I see in the mirror.
Oh no, poop. Not like this.
Oh no, I'm great. Anyway, I'm trying to transition back into the game somehow, and I can't do it. So we're just gonna go back.
It's game 4, Boop. It's just happens.
It's like a switch that like goes in our head. That's like, okay, game 4. Let's laugh a little bit.
And be self-degrading.
Yeah, always. I think one of my like most popular phrases is "I'm a good person, I swear." When it comes to casting, but you know what? I'm excited to be here, Khroen and Luna, and that's what you call a transition, friends. And Luna is excited to be here as well. First ever TFT Fight Night Rising participation for Luna. 3-time world qualifier in Hearthstone, Grandmaster champion there, one of the best Hearthstone players in the world, playing TFT and playing it pretty well. And do you see any of the adjacent skills happening right now? We talked about it earlier when it came to Luna's decision making in terms of probabilities, because that's kind of Hearthstone's thing, right?
Yep.
Anything else that you're seeing?
I think that was the major thing that stood out to me as like what's would separate them from like the average TFT player. Of course, we haven't like just been looking at Luna's perspective here. I think the game understanding is there, like what's good in the meta. Going to be opting for some flexibility in terms of what comps am I going to go into. It just isn't like one tricking a specific thing. Is open to rerolling when it looks good. So I mean, just solid overall, like the way that you want to be playing TFT. There, nothing overly besides what I mentioned earlier, specific as to like what's going to be super separative, but we might see something like that in the future. I again referenced it earlier, going back to Wolfie, being one of the best, if not the best Pokemon player in the world. Definitely being able to be that good at a game means that the skills translate. You know how to learn, you know how to improve, and at a faster rate than the vast majority of players. So I would be surprised that if Luna does end up being qualifying for next week, or we just see her in the future as well, we're going to see some lot of noticeable differences and improvements there.
And even in one of like the craziest differences that we saw with Wolfie, for example, is even how they move their mouths, right? Like it's just that intention that you see with a lot of players. It's one of those kind of like finite things. Like if you see someone hovering over something for a while and they're running out of time and they just popped a fortune,
Yeah,
win, right? Like you can see the indecision sometimes and just how the mouse movement looks. And
definitely.
while it doesn't, this game doesn't have a ton of APM requirements outside of say like a big fortune payout when you need to kind of like, get it going through that round. It can definitely still reveal a lot of the mental
Yeah.
aspect of that particular player. Other things that we actually haven't really seen, the only person we've ever seen steal units from someone is Loco Doco still, right? And I still want to see that kind of innovation happen in this particular game too. Maybe it's harder in a reroll situation since we're not necessarily massively competing for 5 cost units like we were in Bill Gates a little earlier, but I had a friend steal Samira's for like no reason the other day and ended up getting 2 Samira 2s in a comp that could not fit her comp, ended up winning the game. My other friend was running Samira at the time, and the amount of tilt, like I swear to God, they wanted to fight. Like for like a minute and a half, right? It was just that effective. And when you can get into the head of a player like that, right, in a 1v1 situation, you have the advantage there. You're going to play cleaner. And that's like the type of stuff I want to see more of in TFT is just playing. It's like, tennis. You see someone on the other side of that net and you can play with their heads, right? Just by being you and playing well, right? And I want to see a little bit more of that.
Definitely. There's a lot to go into, a lot to say about how effectively that you can play in any aspect of a game like TFT, the mental game. Assuredly, like I 100% agree with you being one of those ways. But Jirachy gonna be losing out in this round. Doesn't actually look like they're going to commit to the Yasuo. Leveling up kind of on par. They've sold the other Yasuo 2, sold the Yasuo 1 that was on the bench right there in favor of making Econ. So just going to be going with a 4 duelist mid game. Going to transition into something else later on. Runans makes me think of, I would say, Olaf or Shyvana. But I mean, we know that Jirachy is no stranger to pivoting when they look like they might have no business in pivoting, but just to make a better composition. You referenced it earlier again that like, while it didn't quite work out for them, sometimes you got to be satisfied with getting to a 6th because that pivot, while it was like a little bit panicked, it was like, a good idea still to do. Like there's no really faulting that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something else like that being done in this game right now, because we know that the Jirachy takes their direction from the early game, sticks with it for a while, and then goes in like a huge pivot at a short period of time. It's not like very slow or gradual at all in that regard.
Jirachy is definitely more of a reactionary player in the late game, I would say. I think you
Yeah.
can summarize a lot of playing styles by proactivity and reaction, right? Some players like DQA are very proactive in their play. They're like, this is going to be the team you're going to need to beat this lobby, right? And they pace the lobby and they see what can happen. Other people are very reactionary. They'll play the early game slow. Maybe they don't really like reroll, so they're going to play KL anyway, and then they can kind of react to the lobby as time goes on. And I think Jirachy likes doing that more so than leading some of those ideas, because we've actually seen Jirachy start off with big leads and then end up getting 4th and 5th. And so to me, might not seem like they're that comfortable pacing a lobby like that.
Yeah, definitely. Scouting around here a little bit. We do have a Talon player actually with 3 items. Concentrado, maybe going for that Talon 3 yet again. Of course, we're very far from that, but still, the Enlightened. I mean, there's something to be said about playing Enlightened this much, going for like the Janna 3, you know, this much, things like that. It's a playstyle that not only is one that's not going to be contested as much, but it's also just working against what everybody else is running, like the Kales and things like that. Like, I think
Yeah,
it's
if you
really,
want
really
to
good
talk
for
about
identification of the meta.
Yeah, if you want to talk about like a lobby counter, this is it, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to pro play, people are going to be maximizing stats and stuff. So you can expect the Kales, you can expect some of the reroll comps, right? But you won't expect the Talon a lot of the time. And so what Talon does is it gives you access to the back line, right? And the way that the ultimate works too is he jumps to the person with the lowest armor, which is going to be Kale eventually. It will not be Kale last. And I think that's like the biggest thing about Talon is if Talon's able to execute 2 to 3 people, that Kale is going to come up at a certain point very quickly. And it's all about killing the Talon before it gets there, as we saw happen with that Talon 3 getting CC'd with that Sejuani ult earlier. So it's a feast or famine comp, in my opinion, that enlightened comp, but it's been feasting a lot because he's on record tying pace right now when it comes to running strictly enlightened through all 4 lobbies.
Yeah, very much so. Still that possibility of tying the literal record of points earned in a fight night is on the table here for Concentrado. So gonna have to be looking out for that. They need a first place to do it. And they've gotten 1 first place tonight, but 2 second places. So very much expect them to be at the end of a lobby if they don't fall victim to that third or fourth lobby curse as well.
Which is not happening right now. But if
Yeah.
he doesn't find the talons, right, it will happen because that can happen to you, right? Sometimes you want to go
Yeah.
enlightened and then you just don't see talon, right? You go through the lobby and you're like, no one is picking up talons. Where are my talons? Right?
Yeah.
It happens sometimes, and sometimes it happens during a game like this. Probably not, but it could.
It is possible. I was just gonna say, yeah, it's unlikely for it to happen because, again, Talon's not the thing that's being contested. It's gonna be primarily the Kales, maybe the Olafs for those 4-cost units. Zaya's maybe sprinkled in there a little bit as well, Aurelion Souls, but we don't really see any. I don't think we've seen any talent. Maybe one talent actually outside of Concentrado for over the course of all the games tonight. But definitely, it's gonna be likely that they hit.
It is gonna be likely, but is it going to be consistent? As
We'll
obviously,
see.
Contrado did not get another Talon, right? Usually, Contrado has one a win streak up to this point. I believe all 3 games. Oh, and if anyone's worried, not worried, wondering who has the record, who got the first record, it was Sleet back in set 3, I believe, early on in the Galaxies. I believe it was Sleet's first ever fight night, and he got 36 points
Yeah, I think so.
that day, and then got eliminated on his 3rd week. I believe that's kind of where I decided the 3rd week curse happened. Um, it's just like pulling,
Yeah.
context out of thin air, but it ended up being really, really true here. So going back to this game, Sleet's still around, right?
I I haven't seen too much of the
Yeah, I
recently. I don't
haven't really
actually
seen.
know.
Yeah. So we've had a couple people tie that record. I think Numano did it 2 or 3 times. I think I like Hobos was really close to doing it once. Probably the most well-known person who struggles in the 4th lobbies of like every tournament they are a part of, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But this could happen, and Contrado is setting themselves up for a possible kind of way to brag to the rest of the TFT world, which is I came into my first fight night and I tied the record, which you can only say on your first ever fight night.
True. Very, very true here. Gonna be going for that one. Still a pretty solid HP, being 78, even though they're not like, up at 100 like Noel or Noel over there. Still, I believe running that 6 cultist at 100 on wolves. That's huge in terms of strength in the game. You can leverage that HP a whole ton, and you're going to be having a lot of gold discourse just from when striking out, getting +3 every single round for the past whole stage.
If DimDanSum gets 8th place in this lobby, he will not be in the top 3.
Oh,
So
really? Wow.
um, I I'm making a little bit of a jump, but I believe the numbers are not in his favor when it comes to that. So because that was the example that we used. If Jirachy gets first and DimDanSum gets last,
Yeah.
right, then Jirachy could potentially sneak in based on the
S-
results of everybody
Yeah.
else.
Some super specific stuff would have to happen. Like it would be DimDanSum has to go 8th, and then like Yiggles has to go either exactly like 7th or 6th, and
Yeah.
Luna Love would also have to bot 4 as well. A bunch of stuff would have
But
to happen.
what it does is it opens up a lot of different kind of roads to a top 3 for more people,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Because what DimDanSum gets to do is control their own destiny right now, right? If they finish top 3, they finish top 3. That's how it goes. And so, and it's not really happening right now. And we have seen
Yeah.
DimDanSum struggle getting in 8th place on one lobby. And so I'm a little worried right now. 31 HP at 4-1 is not making it to Wolves' HP total.
Yeah. Some people actually, it just comes to mind right now because if you're in this situation where you're far behind everybody, some people honestly just like panic in the situation. They make decisions that they wouldn't usually do, which would just not even net to having a chance of victory, honestly, like at all. Some players will be in this position and be like, okay, what do I have to do to play for that 5th or play for that 4th? And they recognize it, do exactly that. But oftentimes, like when you're in this situation, players will play to not lose, which doesn't really work out a lot of the time, as opposed to playing to win, playing to your
Yep.
outs.
A lack of intention, right?
Yeah,
Playing to
exactly.
not lose is a lot more nebulous than going for 6th, right? And so, yeah, mindset. TFT, I think, is one of the most mentally taxing games out there, to be honest with you. I think it takes so much brain power to like remember everything, right? Maybe for me because I'm not, a pro player, but even for these
Yeah,
guys, it can be very, very difficult to just maintain through a game, and losses in TFT can hurt
definitely.
really bad, especially if you feel like, either, oh, I had the better comp, I just got the bad coin flip this time, right? But the way that DimDanSum is handling this, I actually really appreciate. The RFC on the Zaya is, I remember something that more specifically said not to do in the patch notes, as it wouldn't reach the backline or something like that. So not my
Yeah.
favorite item in the world for her, but if we're kind of just focusing on the auto attacks in the backline just to get to the Kale a little bit later, the RFC will eventually end up on that Kale.
Yep. Checking in with Yiggles here, who's running 4 ninjas right now, and an RFC, i.e. on the Akali, 2 very, very strong items there. There's going to be, on the side of the Jirachy, the Callista with Deathblade, Runan's Hand of Justice, but it's definitely not going to be enough to win this matchup. Actually gets destroyed here. And
Mhm.
Yiggles is pretty solid. I wonder if they stick with the 4 ninjas and stick with this Akali until the end game here. They're on 75 HP. Noel just lost, so, nearing that first place, actually, even in terms of just HP.
Yeah, ninjas is a comp that guys exist, guys, gals, and other pals at home exists in the game right now. You might not
Yep.
have seen it in a while, right? This isn't a blurry picture, right? It is a real ninja comp, right? And it's happening at the exact right time. So the reason why Yiggles is on a win streak is because you got to try to lock in your ninjas by 4-1. I feel like that's when they're strongest. They're going to carry you through 4-1 to round 5, most likely, right? And give you a decent lead. They do fall they fall off like a ton of bricks though once CC kind of gets a little bit more ingrained, or some more of that single target damage. A Samira ult will delete your whole team at that point in time. So it's all about doing damage as quickly as possible because you don't really have that many tanks outside of that Shen. Zeke's, though, is going to be really nice for that Zed, which is one of those required items, but we don't have any bows, so the Zed's not going to be our carry. It has to be the Akali at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say Zeke's and potentially Chalice might just save the tier in case they get a blue buff on the Akali. Generally seen as the best Akali items there with the RFC blue buff and the IE. She'll be casting her spell, refreshing that with blue buff, and yeah, keep on going. Concentrato also has a chosen Akali, it seems, actually, to be buffing up that Talon. Going to be getting that Talon to that 4 assassin area, but still no Talon 2 for Concentrato. And yeah, they're going to be taking some losses here in stage 5 because of it.
told you.
It's happening. I mean,
It's
okay,
happening.
they haven't rolled down, right? They still had 50 gold left. It's not like they're actually trying to roll for talons here. We'll say that if we see round 5-1, it's still a talon one.
All right.
We'll then say it at that point.
That's a deal. That's a deal. I will appreciate that. MrMeeSeeks at 36 HP. DimDan. Doug DimDanSum from no, that doesn't really work. Anyway, DimDanSum at 31 HP. Went for it. lostboymaa at 28 and Jirachy in last place. Xayah 2 though. That's actually a pretty big power increase for that comp, but we just might be running out of time. Will Noel. Remember, this was a 6 cultist comp real early, and we were like, this is going to win kind of a lot, and it has so far. But it has started to lose, and might be Galio pretty good against ninjas, just in general, because of that taunt. This is a kind of comp-specific counter to ninjas, in my opinion.
Yep, gonna do really, really good there. I mean, it's just everything clumped in the corner. The Galio slams down. It's just so disruptive. It doesn't really leave the assassins or they, and the Zed as well, any room to really do too much. But still, 60 gold right now. They're going to be playing for that roll down. Maybe going for a Call You 3 actually as well. There is another one on the bench. Level 8 is going to give you the best odds, 35%, I believe, to roll those 3 cost units. To see how that works out. But we'll have to see.
Still not a ton of hyper rolling this game, by the way.
Yeah. People, I don't know. Maybe people are just still approaching that patch a bit differently. Of course, like sometimes, like you said earlier, we get to be like, okay, reroll's the thing, or like we're weak, Morgana week. It just like doesn't happen. And that's just like, okay, that's just our luck. We hype something up as like we're gonna see it a lot. It just doesn't occur.
Or Elderwood when there were literally 0 Elderwood comps that week. No ASOLs to be found. It was nuts. But the Reforgers are probably going to be moderately wasted until we get some like item components, or maybe we don't get a carousel item on the next one that we like. So we'll just reforge that one. And then maybe we get, a weird spat off of something and we could just reforge that. Because usually the Reforger, I use it for item components. More so than anything else. Like say I have too many belts, then it's actually a pretty good idea to use it on one of the belts. Yeah, what do you think about the Reforger?
Yeah, I generally say I think it's correct to use it as a component swapper because you get a lot more flexibility with that, as opposed to if you make an item, a completed item, and reforge it into something that's actually useless for your team, it's like, okay, that feels doomed. But if you do it earlier on with a component, then you have a lot more options, and you still have flexibility to go whatever direction that you want from there. Sometimes,
go
go
for it.
it.
Sorry. Oh no, you.
I was gonna say, sometimes if you just have a doomed item after Raptors and you just want to make it to reforge it into whatever, it's like, sure, okay, cool, go for it.
Yeah, we were those people on the stairs, like, oh, excuse me. And then we, sorry, I'll go this way, you go this way. Okay, go. That's exactly what we did there. But the other thing that it can really be helpful on is this next NPC round. Like, say you do roll a spat item that you just don't need. Right. It won't re-roll into another spat item. It will just re-roll into another item. Some people, I think it says like of the same tier or something like that on the item.
The same quality.
Yeah. And so the spat, I think some people assume that spat items because of that would be another spat item, but that is not the case. As MrMeeSeeks is going to fall here. Noel, playing spoiler. This is the spoiler.
This is the spoiler. And it's funny they mentioned the Reforger quality thing actually, because I was curious if Concentrata would hit. So I had their view pulled up, and they did reforge a Warlord spat. And they also actually hit a Chosen Talon, so that Talon is there, Boop. It is there.
All right,
it's
just a little
Chosen Talon at that.
Fashionably late. To the party a little bit. A Talon after my own. I'm late to everything, so I am fashionably late to parties most of the time, even when they're online. So and I'm just at home, and yesterday I woke up from a nap I didn't know I was taking. That's where my life is at right now. I know, right? It was a weird experience, and so Noel going up against Lost Boy, who has had a pretty rough day. To be completely honest with y'all, but could potentially take someone down with them throughout this tournament. But yeah, once you get that Kale going, it's so funny. These Kales always do so much better than my Kales, even with the singular items.
Got a lot of supporting items there, double Zeeks and Chalice as well. Actually, a couple eliminations there as well. DimDanSum going real first to Wraith today. It actually does, like you predicted earlier, get, or maybe referenced, not predicted, but gets the 8th. The Jirachy takes 7th as well.
All right, so Jirachy taking 7th. DimDanSum, a little bit of a throw, to be completely honest with you. I don't know. If you're in 3rd place, right, coming into the 4th lobby, you're in like arguably the hardest position in the lobby, right? Do you 1st or 8th? Do you go for a top 4 comp, right? And it seems like we went for a 1st or 8th situation and we got 8th. I probably would have gone something a little bit more, reroll-y to try to get 4th place. As you know, we did see that Diana reroll successfully get into the top 3, so we know it's possible. Are we going to move this Sidrani in somehow?
Yeah, it looks like it. It will go in here. Over that Recon. And a lot of upgrades here were had. There's the Sword 22. There's the Kindred 3 right now. So a lot of good stuff here for Noel.
All right. Now that DimDanSum has been eliminated, this is anyone's game for that 3rd place. Everyone needs to really start concentrating and making sure that they can make it into that top 3. Is the chosen talent not going to be enough right now? Is Contrado going to fall? It was MrMeeSeeks in 2nd place, correct?
Yes, MrMeeSeeks is in 2nd. Came into this game with 23 points. Now that DimDanSum is in 8th here, actually, they have 20 points. It opens up the world for Yiggles and Luna to both contest for that 3rd place now.
Okay, and they're both in 2nd place, tied for 2nd place
Yeah.
right now. This is getting intense, folks. So Noel going ahead and putting the Divine onto the Xayah, and a lot of people will put a spare Divine spat just to support the Kale, right? Because Kale without the Divine buff can die in literal seconds. So now especially, man, this is where that targeting can get really frustrating if you're, going up against a team where that talent could have just turned to the left and faced off against the Kale, but instead goes off on the unit next to them, and now we lose. Right, so
Yep.
Noel will lose against Yiggles. Everyone still, I believe, has most people have their Reforgers still, so those will probably be used on this next NPC round. Be crazy if this next NPC round's a triple item round, though.
Yeah, once again, and it
Nope.
won't be just a single item.
Oh, we will
Ludens,
100% use it on this Ludens, in my opinion.
yeah, Ludens really won't have that much value at all in this composition, so definitely gonna be utilized there. I wonder if they would want to utilize it. Not at this point, but if the Divine Spat wasn't on the Xayah, it was just a BT, I would say yeah, go for it. Reroll the BT and the Ludens, honestly, but have to see what they do decide to delegate both of those two. They have 2 rerolls for a single item or multiple rerolls for a few items if they do want to reroll the Divine. But having 4 Divine threshold is very, very nice, so probably not going to do that.
The Divine rework happened a couple weeks ago, and so after they ascend, they will erase all CC. And the timing of it for most of the Divine units are, as we do see Reforger into a Zeeks and another Bloodthirster. So we might see another reroll again. The Zeeks is actually really nice for the Kale.
Yeah, I would put it on the Kale. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it will go there. Just gonna be swapping around some positioning here. They don't have any frontline items anymore without the Declaw, and I believe it was Sunfire as well on that Shen. Maybe something different, but actually Bloodthirster going on there, Kale.
Yeah, the Bloodthirster is going to go on the Kale. One of the biggest thing about Kale is that there's no inherent lifesteal in the unit, and so the Bloodthirster is going to be really, really nice against some other heavy auto attacking units. Ooh, there's actually a talent. I think Luna was like, "Hey, Contrado, I like your style." And then it went along with the Talon too, as maybe we're seeing the birth of a little bit of a transition in meta right now, because these Talons are dealing with these Kales pretty consistently, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it reminds me of beginning of set 4, which I think was like one of the best metas that TFT had. There was very much like a rotating meta, and it went to like, okay, Talon's really good because it counters a specific comp. Then rotated out because people weren't running that comp that it countered anymore. And now it's kind of the same thing happening. People running Kale, and it's like, okay, I run Talon to counter the Kale. What happens when people stop running Kale? You start running things that just counter Talon, and then it just goes full circle there.
Right? It's that's the cycle of esports, right? In a lot of things, you can always make the argument of, well, you can counter this with this, and why can't you do this and this, right? And we're seeing the argument take place in real form through a couple of our players here, as Yiggles has the Talon with the GA this time. I like the Talon with a little bit of that defensive bonus. Is not going to help win this round, as it's going to be almost a best in slot Akali with
Yeah.
the IE RFC blue buff taking it. Man, this ninja comp though.
Yeah.
Sticking around. Proud of you, ninjas. The Ninja Academy should give a little bit of, give you an award or something.
Yeah, and just one Akali away from Akali 3, and it looks like Yiggles just now hit it. Akali 3 comes online, and that composition that was just so deadly is going to be even deadlier now at this point.
I'm getting moderately anxious about this Yiggles Luna situation happening right now, because that might determine third place.
Yeah.
Their particular positions. I'm getting, and
Ye
Noel is playing spoiler right now at the top of the leaderboard at 33. Anyone can still win. MrMeeSeeks still at the bottom, as we do go up next to another Talon comp, and so Luna is also running a little bit of Talon. That might be the reason why Contrado not winning as consistently as before. And it's going to be Luna's Talon doing a lot more work to start, but that black pool, huge value, but Set is going to be the cherry on top, especially with the Zillion on it. This is pretty much all Luna. All we got to do is get that ult
Okay.
off.
Yeah, if the set didn't get ult off, it would have got a little scary there, but fortunately did. And it was Luna, yeah, versus Concentrado's composition there. And all of a sudden now Concentrado is going to be at the top. 25 HP and on a win streak, as well as MrMeeSeeks. But going back to Luna versus Yiggles as well, Yiggles did come into game number 4 with a 2-point lead. That means that Luna will have to outplace Yiggles by 2 points or better to have a chance of at least winning the tiebreaker, if not just winning outright on points to get that third spot. MrMeeSeeks, though, still on a win streak. If Concentrado falls in like 5th here randomly and MrMeeSeeks get first, it could be MrMeeSeeks win. A lot of options, or a lot of possibilities here.
And Concentrado might finish exactly where he is and tie the record, right? Like so many different situations happening. This is honestly, like, in terms of a viewing situation, so wonderful, because a lot of things could happen in this lobby right now. Luna being at level 9, though, is a pretty strong place, though we're going to have potentially 3 people at 7-1, where we didn't make it to 6-3 on our first lobby, right?
Yeah.
So remember when we first started today at the break, we were like, so those 2 lobbies took like 50 minutes total, right? Right?
Fast.
And then now we've gotten later on, and it's because the team comps have changed, right? We're playing a lot slower than anticipated, and we're seeing that right now as Lee Sin actually gets a very nice ult onto that Sejuani, and it's going to be a huge loss for Luna, but we should still be alive.
Oof. Yeah, 4 HP. That was huge there from Noel. That composition is so insanely strong, and everyone actually is still alive at this point. MrMeeSeeks and Noel winning, but Concentrado and Luna losing out there to just even the HP even more. Put more players than one hit of falling. So the world where MrMeeSeeks actually could win out over Concentrado is very, very real right now.
And MrMeeSeeks can thank Luna for this, for running another Talon comp, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a Talon 3. So Luna also with the Morgana 2 with almost perfect items. I would say you could argue that a Chalice could be a best in slot item for that Morgana. It is gonna do a lot of damage. Look, everyone is going swimming right now, and that Morgana is
So many
staying
pools.
alive. Yeah, exactly. And these pools are not TFT friendly right now, and Contrado is going to get taken down potentially here. That's a big loss.
Yeah, it will be. Wow.
Oh,
Is it in 5th though? Oh, Yiggles
yes.
survives. It is Concentrado, the 4th lobby. Oh no. 5th
4th lobby
place here.
curse. It happened. It
Oh
happened.
man.
Happened to
It
2 people
happened.
today, actually. DimDanSum and our friend Contrado. Whew, still incredibly close here. How much you want to bet Yiggles and Luna go up against each other this next round?
That would be, oh man, that'd be so good, so impactful. Talking about again the results here, MrMeeSeeks now has a chance to win. It's still the battle between Yiggles and Luna. Both of the players can still manage to make their way into the top 3. Noel right now, still as we mentioned, kind of playing spoiler, but it's so insane. There's so much going on. No Talon too here for Yiggles. There's been so much gold rolled, but hasn't found it.
That's because Luna has it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so crazy. But a zillion 2. Oh my goodness. Okay, so a ZZ Rot is actually huge for going up against assassins.
Yep.
It is going to be a really great way to at least distract the Talon, so the Talon can take a little bit of damage potentially from someone like. Oh my God, I was right. Luna and Yiggles going up against each other. This is an elimination round, friends. Whoever loses here will not make it. Oh, actually, Yiggles still could, but will have a much easier time making it into the top 3 if you win out here. And this Akali is doing a very good job, but so are the Zillions. Yiggles has the Zillion too. Will the Swain be able to take everyone else down? And the Zillion is going to help the Swain survive. This is not over just yet. Did not get the ult off, and Luna will fall. That was a intense matchup, and now those Talons are back and are not going to go towards Yiggles, unfortunately. That would have been best case scenario, but
Yeah.
now Yiggles is pretty much in 3rd place, I believe.
Yeah, it is guaranteed for top 3. I'm confident in saying at this point there's no one else that can, with that result there, that can pass. So great stuff there. So impactful of a matchup. And as you called it, it was the matchup we got. But now it's still MrMeeSeeks being able to perhaps still get 3rd on a win streak. Hasn't lost a round in like 9 rounds right now. And it's going to be Yiggles versus Noel here.
Yeah, Noel's comp is all about attack speed. Double Bloodthirster on that Xayah is actually going to ult the wrong direction. And so a little bit of RNG help is going to help Yiggles. And this Akali is going to win out this round and push Yiggles into 2nd place. MrMeeSeeks will also win out again. I know I'm going to play ninjas a little bit later and hopefully also get the same result, because I think a lot of people just assumed ninjas were dead, that this is not a comp that you could potentially play. But the rest of the lobby, I do believe that ninjas can be good against Kayle. So not a lot of Kayle, not a lot of reroll on this particular lobby. A lot of Talon, though, and this has been very interesting in terms of how anti-meta it has been, and how close this lobby is.
And how close it is going to come down to an end right now. This will be our last fight of the game here, Boop. Yiggles versus MrMeeSeeks for first.
Okay, this is going to be it. This is the last round of today. The Blackpool is going to be very, very important. Actually, the Dragon Soul buff's helping quite a bit right now. This Zillion does not get the ult off onto the Akali, and it is going to be it for Yiggles. And MrMeeSeeks, I think, slips into 1st place with this win. We'll see where the scores end up. A lot has changed. A lot will have changed on these scores. No record here today, but still 4 incredible in terms of 4 total lobbies in a fight night. These might be some of the closest lobbies we've ever seen.
Oh yeah, some of the closest lobbies, and so much of like it coming down to game 4 specific placements determining if you're going to be invited back versus if you're going to be able to make it into the money there. And yes, we even with the second actually there, MrMeeSeeks did beat out Concentrado there on that score. MrMeeSeeks will be our fight night champion for tonight. Concentrado with a second. Yiggles, of course, with that amazing placement in the last game, did get 3rd. And Luna Love does get into 4th for a little bit of that money there. And DimDanSum, oh man, look at the scores there. 1st, 8th, 2nd, 8th. Very, very 1st or 8th, and just narrowly misses out in the top 4 because of it.
You know, that's just the name of the game sometimes. Sometimes you're 1st, sometimes you're 8th. And for DimDanSum, we had probably one of the most stressful days of TFT they've ever experienced in a fight night history. Like, we barely see results like that, but we do end up getting 20 points anyway. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to MrMeeSeeks, because this feels like a little bit of a coronation, because they've been here a lot, and it has been a variety of different results, and we finally get a win here.
Yeah, MrMeeSeeks, are you here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes we can. Congratulations on winning Fight Night Rising for this week. What a slew of games right there. It was neck and neck with you and Concentrado until the end there. Kind of what was going through your mind during that game 4? Like, did you know it was as intense as it was to get this victory?
My game plan today was just to play Olaf every time, and it worked out. I actually got perfect items like every game, I realized, after that 4th one.
Why
Yeah.
Olaf? Why Olaf versus some other things like the Talons that we've been seeing today?
To be honest, I haven't been playing much of TFT, and Olaf has actually been the comp that I've been playing the most, so I don't really know what is meta right now, and it seemed to work out.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
Definitely. Olaf being a very, very solid 4-cost carry right now. Of course, we saw so many people playing Kale today, and not a lot of reroll, as probably you noticed, and as we noticed here as well, casting the games. But I wanted to ask, I know you said you haven't been playing too much recently, but do you think that the matchups that Olaf has generally seems to like counter most other people, or does it like struggle against some of those reroll compositions if they get online a bit early?
I think has a pretty good matchup. I was playing a lot of Olaf when like Elder Soul was a thing, and like I picked that comp because usually they're all bunched up with keepers and stuff, and then Sejuani and Morgana would just like kill their whole team, and usually that has a good matchup against them.
Yeah, no, definitely. Pass it over back on to Boop if you have anything
Cool.
else.
So my last question to you is like, how did you? So you weren't playing a lot today. So do you actually think that might have helped you move forward? Because you've been here a couple times, right? And it's been, varying results. And this is your first win at Fight Night, right?
Yes, my first
Yeah.
win.
So do you think actually, because sometimes when you take a little break, you take it easy, you go into it with a fresh mind, you crush it. Do you think that's a little bit of what happened today, in terms of your play?
Yeah, for sure. Since I haven't been playing, I just came in like with the mindset of I'll just play how best I can, and it worked out. Yeah.
All right. And so
Definitely.
my real last question is, outside of TFT, what other games do you like to play? Do you have like specific genres, or what else do you like to do?
Recently I've been playing Bloons Tower Defense. It's a lot more relaxing game. Not much RNG to it.
So I disagree with you. Blues Tower Defense stresses me out a lot. So so I just disagree. Great game, by the way. It's like one of those games that like you realize you've played for 2 hours, right? And then
Oh
you just
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like come back into the world and you snap back. Good choice, good choice. Khroen, take us out.
Oh man, that's so funny actually. But enjoyable game. I haven't played it in like so long. I used to play like in school on the computers, like but the old Bloons games. But I'm getting old. I'm booming out at this play. But once again, congratulations, MrMeeSeeks, on winning tonight, Fight Night Rising, your first victory. Do you have any final words, any shout outs, and where can we find you on Twitter and Twitch and other social medias of the like?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. You can find me at MrMeeSeeksTFT on Twitch. Don't use Twitter that much, and yeah,
All right. Well, thank you very much, and congrats yet again.
thanks.
See you next week.
Yep.
All right, poop on balloons. I wasn't expecting that being the answer. I don't know what I was expecting, but it
Isn't
wasn't
that like
balloons.
like an old school web browser game? Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, I remember playing Diner Dash and Bloons, and like, what is that one with the toad that would like shoot jewels, and it would be like in like a weird
Oh,
pattern. Do you know what
I
I'm
know what
talking
you're
about?
talking about, but I don't remember
Yeah,
the
like I remember.
name.
Yeah, those were definitely some.
Some
I should be
throwbacks.
working at school, but I'm doing this game titles.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling old and nostalgic. I didn't know Bloons was still around, to be honest with you. That
Yeah,
was
but I've seen like a bunch of people playing it actually recently, strangely enough.
Zuma. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Zuma. Yeah, that game is sick. I still will
Chat
play that
knows.
game on occasion. If like I see it, because sometimes it'll just be hosted on a website.
That's real
Anyway,
old.
anyway, before we get too nostalgic here, I want to talk a little bit about what Meeseek said, which is the fact that Gunmay said this too, which is this is the second time we've actually had a champion come in and be like, actually, coming into it with a little bit more of an open mind and giving myself a
Yeah.
little bit more breathing room, I think it helped me win. And that's
Mhm.
the second time we've actually heard that. So I'm curious to see if that's kind of what you want to see from our players, is to maybe is to put, all your heart and effort into it, but it seems like the balance is getting a little bit better for some of these players.
Definitely. It reminds me of way back in the day, like when I first became a professional player, it was in, Here's the Storm, but one of my I guess like you said, like managers for the team said that like they competed in like, like MTG or like poker before. And they said before, like that day before they compete, they don't play at all. They just want to go in with like an open, fresh mindset, not like be burnt out, not stress themselves out at all. Just go into it like that. And I think it works for a lot of players like Gunmay
Mhm.
and like MrMeeSeeks instead. You kind of go in
Yeah.
with, I don't want to say low expectations, but just like no pressure on you, right? So you're gonna play a
Mhm.
lot more like cleaner. You're gonna play a lot more like you usually do, and not let that stress
Yep.
kind of get to you. So
Like
I think it's
y-
great. Yeah.
you go in and you're like, okay, I've prepared, and what happens happens, right? I've done my work, I've done my research, and now I have to use it.
Hmm.
And the girl in the Queen's Gambit was kind of that way, which is every single match was the same, right?
Yeah.
And I really like that mentality just in general, because when I was teaching music, I would tell my students, don't play before the recital, right? Like I swear it works,
Yeah.
because you're gonna blow your chops, you're gonna be too mentally fatigued, right? Before you go in,
Gotta get the
so it's
yips.
you're gonna get the yips, exactly. And so the moral of the story here, I think, is there are definitely multiple ways of performing and enhancing your performance. But I think the thing that we're actually starting to hear from a lot of TFT players is, sometimes it's okay to take a break, right?
Yeah.
I love mac and cheese, but I don't want to eat mac and cheese every day. You know what I mean? And so
Oh yeah.
and that's okay. And I love that we're moving that direction. And with the games being as close as they were today, I'm so excited for next week and
Oh
what
yeah.
these other patches are going to bring.
Totally excited for what the patch brings. Excited for how these players prepare for it and kind of what mental state they get to next week in. But until then, we do got another week to go, and that'll do it for us here tonight on Fight Night Rising. This has been Khroen and Boopasaurus bringing you the action, but a week to go until we see you next time. So take care. Have a good night.